Introducing first, speaking out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Hello, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It is the Spotlight. I'm Jeremy Lambert. That's Stephen Jensen. Shout out, as always, to Big Dick MLJ for giving us the intro. Happy Thanksgiving, Emil. Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody who has joined us on this Thanksgiving morning is doing well. Steven, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well. I'm thankful. Let's get out of the way. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for Fightful, my friends and my family today, and I'm thankful that the Minnesota Vikings get to try to redeem themselves in front of the whole world later tonight. Also, real quick before I forget, shout out to my boys, Purple Daily, Judd, Mackie, and Declan. They're like my favorite Vikings podcast, like through YouTube and stuff, and I watch them like every day while I'm working, like the shoot job and stuff. So I want to give them a shout out. Got some merch, and I'm wearing my purple, ready for my Vikings tonight. So yeah, I'm having a good day. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. How are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm well. I'm about the best I've been in a week. This time last week, I was crippled. So there was no show last week, as people may or may not know, because I had COVID and I tested positive on late Wednesday. I didn't feel good Wednesday at all. Wednesday and Thursday were terrible. I talked all about the COVID experience on FMC. Everybody can go over to Fightful Overbooked if they want to really know everything I've gone through the past week. But I'm feeling better. Fingers crossed I might go to WrestleCade this weekend. I really wanted to. I was hoping to, but I not feeling 100%, and I don't want to go unless I'm at least like 90% or so. So we will see. Yeah, last week was rough. Don't recommend getting COVID, everybody. Jensen, you've been there. It's not fun.
Yeah. I was like you, where like I missed all my shows for like a week. Like I had to. It's the only week ever where I've canceled like the Spotlight and the Weekender, and live rounds with Doug. Like all did the same. Like I just didn't do anything. I couldn't. And y'all will notice it. I mean, in the interview that you were here at the end of the show, we interviewed Richard King on Tuesday of last week, and Jeremy was like starting to get it. So like. You'll notice in the interview, Jeremy's definitely getting sick. So
it's possible I had COVID during that interview. It's very possible.
You most likely did. I mean, it was like when remember like when I had it before I realized that I did the show with you like that morning. Oh, yeah. And I was like, dude, something's wrong. I was like, I feel so weird.
You were rough that morning. I can't believe you like made it through that show, because that was a rough one. And yeah, you made it through, and then you're like, I'm going to sleep. I'm just taking the day. I was like, please take care of yourself. So
I literally did the show and called like my shoot job, and I was like, listen, I don't know if anyone at work knows I'm on YouTube right now. I'm not trying to like be that guy, but like you can watch the show. You can tell I'm sick. I cannot work today. Like I was just like, and then almost a week passed. Where, like I was texting my boss every morning, like, listen, I'm telling you, like I cannot work right now. And then so no, I'm glad you're feeling better though, man.
Thank you.
Look at Joel over here being an instigator.
No, nobody get COVID. Okay. No. We do have an interview with Richard King that'll air. That we taped it last week. Yes. It'll air at the end of the show here today. Jensen has no shoot job to get to. Might hang around a little bit longer. Talk some wrestling. A lot of wrestling to talk about. A lot to get into. But great interview with Richard King. He talks about his AEW Dark experience, Battle Slam, the match with Ortiz that never aired on AEW Dark, advice from Christopher Daniels. Get into a lot of non-wrestling stuff as well. So a really fun interview that we did with him. Next week, they are back. The dynamic duo of Jameson Ryan and Diamond Sheik. Next week, they're going to talk all about the District Championship Wrestling show that is on Sunday. That Jensen will be there. That Jensen will be doing commentary for it. That I've put a hit out on Stephen Jensen. There's about 5 wrestlers in my DMs saying, all right, what do you need me to do to Jensen on commentary? Do you need me to give him a smack, give him a punch, give him a kick? What do you need from me? And I was like, listen, depending on what you do, that's what the price is here. So I got at least 5 people messaging me ready to take you out, Stephen Jensen.
All right. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to defend myself if need be. I'll be doing I think I'm gonna be doing Jameson's match on commentary, Sheik's match, and they asked me if I wanted to do Suicide's match also. I don't know who's gonna be under the mask though. Like what's like version of Suicide?
Nobody's under the mask. It's Suicide. What are we talking about under the mask? It's Suicide. There's nobody underneath the mask. It's one person. It's the same person it's always been.
Oh, you're working. I was like, what are you talking about? So like because anyway, but and that they told me I could really do like as many matches as I want, but I was like, dude, I'm not trying to like step on people's toes either. Like, I don't have really any commentary experience. They did, but Jameson and Sheik have just been so cool to both of us.
They have.
Jameson's like he's even talking like if I want to bring like a crew and stuff like before the shows, we can get like some YouTube stuff done and like whatever. I mean, like he's really opened it up for like us to like really like get some content. And then also shout out to Battle Slam. They have a show Sunday night as well, but they're not starting until like 11 p.m. Eastern. So I doubt I'll be able to go to that because I have to work my shoot job the next day. You're not going to
be available for the shoot job the next day, Jensen. You're going to be laid up in the hospital after everybody takes you out.
I know. It's so funny because like even if that actually happened, like let's say somebody like did take me out at one of these shows, my job's never going to believe that actually happened because everyone tries to take the day after Thanksgiving break off. So like there's no chance I can take that off without it being like totally suspect. But anyway, long story short, I'm looking forward to this weekend. We have football all day today. Got like some fights and actually there's no UFC tomorrow. There's got to be some good stuff to watch tomorrow though. Or on Saturday. We got Friday.
Cup. We got watch the World Cup.
Oh yeah, maybe. I'm sure there's some esports. I've been watching a ton of CS:GO. Watching whenever Rocket League's on.
You've gotten me into this Rocket League thing. Yeah, I saw you were watching it. It was like 2 weeks ago at this point, and I was like, all right, send me the link to this. I used to be heavy into watching Mortal Kombat. Used to watch the Mortal Kombat tournaments and everything. My buddy Samer got me into that. I'll watch the esports if it's on. I don't have the time to do that as much anymore. But yeah, I did watch some of the Rocket League. It's very... Yeah, I've played some Rocket League and like watching professionals do it
completely different game.
Way different. The way like they're talking like, oh, there's a good bump here and it's a setup and they're doing all this. Like a lot the games that I was watching was like 0-0 stuff. And maybe they were scoring like overtime or whatever. I was like, man, this is nothing like when I play where it's just up and down, disorganized mess.
Exactly. That's what's so much fun about it outside of like the monetary aspect. I'm not like advocating anybody do any of these things. I'm not like making suggestions or trying to influence anybody in any way. But I love quote unquote gambling on esports. It's so much fun to me.
Why'd you put it in quotes?
Because it's daily fantasy. It isn't actually gambling. So it's legal in the state of Georgia. Like it's completely legal. But I can't sports bet in the state of Georgia, but I can do daily fantasy with money involved in Georgia. It's so silly.
See, I've said this on Twitter, but like it's sports betting is going to be legal in 2023 here in Ohio. All these websites are like, get your free $200 to do bets. I was like, yeah, let me get all this free money to bet. Can't wait.
Yes, do it, dude. It's so much fun, dude. Rocket League and CS:GO are my favorites for that because CS:GO is Counter-Strike Global Offensive. For those who don't know, first-person shooter. It's the same kind of thing. If you ever try to play that game, it's just a completely different experience watching these pros do it. But so like shout out to Chronic. That's my favorite Rocket League player. I've never lost a wager on a Chronic before. That guy killed. He's 17 years old. He's so good. And then there's the Counter-Strike is usually during the day. So like while I'm doing my shoot job from my living room, I have two like 50-inch screens in my living room, and I put both like they have like live Counter-Strike tournaments during the day. So I'll put on like 2 different Twitch channels and have 2 different games going for like the entire work day and just be putting wagers on Counter-Strike the entire day. So it's fun, man. So yeah, there's all that. Also really quickly, just because I don't want to forget about this and I know we have a lot to talk about today, but we have some extra time, like we've said. Tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, Fightful Overbooked. You probably don't even know about this yet.
I know SP3 said you guys are cooking up something, but yes. I don't know what it is.
I'll touch on it a little bit now, and then we'll deep dive tomorrow. we are going to do a tribute to Jason David Frank and the Power Rangers tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Fightful overbooked. So if y'all are available, please join us. Rest in peace to JDF, the green/white Ranger. He played various other colored Rangers throughout the years, but my Mighty Morphin Power Rangers era was, the Green Ranger, White Ranger. I posted a tweet this week. Like I have like the dagger and the sword and stuff, here in my office, and like I've got,
Can you play it? Can you play
this
it?
has no batteries in it currently, but this one does, I think. Yeah. And then it goes, the thing can
cut your
head up and down.
And, there we go.
But yeah, so I got like, dude, I have like a signed Green Ranger Funko Pop and stuff, and I saw that. I'm not gonna sell it because that's not like my prerogative. But like, I went on eBay. I'm just curious, and like the signed Funko Pop I have of his literally like quadrupled in price the day he died, and it's just like, the scalpers, they go. I mean, I get it. It's a business. There's some people who collect this stuff specifically to sell it when people die and make the profit. I get that, but as a fan, I just want to say rest in peace to JDF. We'll deep dive it tomorrow with SP3, but he's a guy that like an entire generation of kids like us really looked up to, and I still do. Like I think it's super, super, super unfortunate if the way that he passed is true. Because the guy had so much love. He did so many of those conventions and had so many fans always walking up to him and taking pictures with him and telling him how much he meant. And mental health, it's such a serious thing, and it's a real shame. But rest in peace to Jason David Frank. You can of course give some thoughts if you'd like to as well. I just wanted to throw that out there at the top of the show.
Definitely RIP Jason David Frank. I think anybody who's a Power Rangers fan looks back on the Green White Ranger storyline, and it's like the best Power Ranger story of all time. I remember watching those episodes and like his arc just so much as a kid. And I should probably revisit a lot of that stuff. But yeah, he got into like MMA and everything. I think he had a couple exhibition fights, maybe like one pro fight. But yeah, he big time influencer when it came to obviously the Power Rangers and that community, and also just kind of like the MMA stuff, because people are like, oh shit, the Power Rangers guy is doing MMA. And you saw the outpouring of love from the wrestling community, from MMA community as well, when he passed away. And very unfortunate the way that he passed away, if that's true. Because that's no joke. And if anybody is out there struggling, reach out to somebody, call hotline, reach out to, we say it all the time. If you're struggling, DM Jensen or
sure.
My DMs are open. You're not alone on this stuff. Send us a message. Like, what's up? Talk, banter, bullshit, whatever, just any type of help you might need, whatever can get you by, we're here for you guys. So it's very, very unfortunate, but I wish you guys the best with the show tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be a great listen. If I'm potentially available, I might pop on and give some thoughts and stuff. But yeah, the Green White Ranger stuff. I remember he had I used to watch this shit all the time as a kid. He had like the martial arts instructional video during this time. I put that on like every single day, doing all the karate moves and stuff when I was a kid. Yeah, like that was my shit. That story was just tremendous. Yeah, I had any type of like Green White Ranger like toys, figures, collectibles, like I had my hands on at some point. And unfortunately, I don't think I kept any of that stuff, which I'm a little bit sad about. Maybe there's some stuff in like my parents' attic that I can dig up. But yeah, at that time, man, that was the cool thing. That was the cool thing. Power Rangers ruled, and that story and his presence on that show was like legit the most memorable thing about that show for me as a kid. Yeah,
he was easily my favorite. He was Tommy Oliver on the show. That was his name on the show, and just Tommy was the coolest. He was the one who was like dating Kimberly, who had a big crush on. Just like he was just the cool one. He started as the heel. He was the one who was against them, that they reformed and became essentially the leader of the Power Rangers. Also, real quick, and this isn't we'll talk a bit about this man a little later in the show, but you remember the fight that JDF was trying to get for all those years with CM Punk.
Yeah.
He called him out over and over. And I remember, and this isn't, people know how I feel about Punk and all, but like I just want to throw this out there for people who don't know, because I thought the way that Phil framed the whole thing was super disrespectful over the years. Jason David Frank is a legitimate martial artist. Like, he was so good at his discipline of, I can't remember if it was karate, taekwondo, his upbringing of martial arts. He was so good at that it became like the, you know, the highest belt level possible with like all the stripes, however it works. But then he was so good, like he created his own style of martial arts that he was like the grandmaster of. And he was legit with MMA. Like, the guys that he fought, he destroyed in legitimate fights. They weren't good fighters, but like JDF went in there and destroyed these guys. Like, he was definitely legitimate. And it always bothered me that CM Punk, when he'd be asked about it, he would literally laugh it off and be like, I'm not doing a celebrity freak fight with that guy. Like, and it's like, dude, it's not a freak fight. Like, this dude's an actual like, you can't be saying that about this guy. Like, you of all people can't call this guy not a martial artist. And so it always bugged me that he literally would laugh the idea of that fight off. It was a celebrity, it was the Green Ranger or Power Ranger fight. It's like, man, I just hope nobody out there in the world actually heard that and like believed that was the case, because Jason David Frank was a more legitimate martial artist than CM Punk will ever be. And like, it always really bothered me that he talked about him like that. So, so that said, yes, we'll talk even more about Jason David Frank and the Power Rangers tomorrow. I'm really bummed out about it. Like, this has been a weird month, man, with like Rumble Johnson dying, like kind of like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
There was also someone else really recently too. It's all getting all messed up now in my head when I'm thinking about it. But I feel like we've had some big ones recently that have just been like really like just real. It's a real bummer. Anyways, I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving though. Like, everyone, you know, like I know I'm saying like it's such a bummer like what we're starting off on, but like I do hope everyone's like enjoying their day today. Damn.
Well,
Kevin
Jensen,
Conroy, I know
thanks.
that was another one that, you know, Kevin Conroy. I feel like there was
a
another
big
one like
Kevin
really
Conroy.
recently also. There was someone else. Anyway, someone in the chat will know. But anyways.
Speaking of your beloved CM Punk,
I'm old and I'm fucking tired and I work with fucking children. I'm tired of wrestling these kids that think they know everything.
the wife points out that Aaron Carter was
that was it. That was the one. Well, we talked about him a lot.
We did.
That's why I didn't remember, because we actually did give a bit of a tribute to Aaron Carter, and yeah, thank you, EP, for that was it. That was who I was thinking of. So
all right, we're gonna rewind so I can set that up better.
I'm old and I'm fucking tired and I work with fucking children. I'm tired of wrestling these kids that think they know everything.
The fucking children, Stephen Jensen. The elite, the fucking children in question. Like, MJF is champ. We'll get into that here in a second. But my God, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, the shit they pulled last night on Dynamite.
mm-hmm.
I could not help but cackle at this. Just cackle at what happened. So Kenny Omega comes out yesterday, Sports Illustrated interview. He's like, yeah, we're not going to talk about it all out. We can't just like move on. And then he mentions Jason David Frank. He's like, there's just bigger stuff going on than wrestling. Like, it's not about the Elite versus Punk, Omega versus Punk. It's about like us trying to do our art and all this stuff. It's like, these are nice little words by Kenny Omega. Cool. They come out in Chicago last night for this trios match. They get the fuck the Elite chance, which is expected in Chicago. They get the CM Punk chance. Okay, expected, because we had the fuck CM Punk chance in New Jersey for Full Gear, and they leaned into that on BT and everything. So we had those chants last night, and it's like, all right, we got the chance. We get it, right? We get it. Match happens. Kenny Omega does the little go to sleep sign before he's setting up the Terminator dive. It's like, all right. Nice little nod there. You got me there.
Cute.
Yeah,
okay,
that's cute right there. And then they just go full bore with everything. Kenny Omega is biting Pac on the arm. He is hitting the GTS. And the best one, Matt Jackson falling on his ass for the buckshot lariat. And then looking around and holding his foot.
He grabbed his leg.
Oh, shit. What happened? What's going on here? These assholes. I was dying on this stuff. Like, you can say what you want about it. I know people are mad. Like, oh, look at these. They're children. CM Punk called it. They're going to lean into it. This is who the Elite are. This is who they're going to continue to be. If you disagree with it, if you don't like it, I completely get it. I get if you're mad about all this stuff. Me, personally, as someone who just likes to fucking pop himself and do dumb shit with his friends, absolutely love it. Loved every second of this dumb shit that they were doing. How about you, Jensen?
Yeah, I mean, it was hilarious. I ate it up. I think it's pretty clear Punk's coming back, by the way.
Oh, I disagree.
Oh, you don't think you think this?
No.
I think here's the thing. You know, I've said a lot of stuff about Punk since this whole thing went down, at All Out and everything. But I've also said along the way, like I think it'd be fascinating, if they can make some money with this. If Punk came back and they did like Kenny Omega versus CM Punk or something like that, like I would really like to see that dynamic on television, because I think CM Punk as a heel with just astronomical heat in AEW, I am interested to see what that looks like. You can't put the world title on him again. I feel like all the personal stuff aside, like even just the injuries alone, I feel like you can't keep putting Punk in that position, because you just do injury prone. I feel like at this point to be the world champion, but you could damn sure pair him with someone like MJF and like have him not go for the title, but be involved in like, you know, big stuff. But I think it's possible he's not coming back. But it was weird. He was like joking about it on commentary when he's doing that Fight Pass show this past week.
Yeah, Cage Fury Fighting Championships. Yeah, he made the joke of like the one announcer's like, oh, we're gonna do Cage Fury Wrestling. We're looking for a big signing, and he's like nodding over to Punk, and Punk's like, you don't want me. Like, I'm trouble in the locker room. I'm bad news. And they were all joking about it. And then John Morgan was like, yeah, don't have him do any press conferences. So they're even Punk's doing like wink nod kind of stuff. But like, so here's my reasoning for why I don't think he's coming back. One, he's still injured. If he's coming back, like, it's not going to be anytime soon. You can't do a match for another few months. So I don't think he's coming back to wrestle anytime soon. I just don't think he's coming back. I think that they're just doing this because this is who they are. Like, that's what I think. I think this is just who the Elite are. They like to be passive aggressive. They're children. They like to lean into this stuff. This is who they've always been. They've always leaned into this stuff on being the Elite. And if you're in Chicago and you're hearing these chants and stuff, you're just going to continue to do this. Okay? Like, again, you could disagree with it. I'm not even saying I fully agree with it. Should they maybe like be a little bit better than that? Should they, not lean into it as much? Should they be the bigger people? Sure. Maybe a little bit, especially if you're going to be EV, which I don't know what this EVP status is. I joked that it's executive vice petty, which if that's the case and not executive vice president, then they're completely living up to their job title here. But I don't think he's coming back, and I think that they're just leaning in. They're just leaning into stuff. If I'm Paul, I would call up Punk and be like, look, you want an outlet to say what you want to say? Like, come on over here and say what you need to say. Okay. Like I'd try to mend that relationship, because there's still money to be made with Punk. Now, does he want to make that money? Is he just fine maybe being out of wrestling and just letting it go? Maybe. There's still a lot of human emotions involved in all of this, a lot of personalities involved in all of this. And I understand why they might want to not take that risk. I understand why Punk might not want to do it. But right now, if you ask me, this mean Punk coming back? I don't think it means any of that. Now, it's possible he still may come back, but I'm not someone who's just going to be like, oh, he's definitely coming back because they're doing this. I think this is just being children. They're being children.
Well, and also, like, for anyone who has like a problem with what they're doing, you clearly don't know the history of like the Elite, because they've clowned everybody forever. Like, this is like very much in their wheelhouse to be doing stuff like this, whether Punk's coming back or not. Like, this is who the Elite are. That's what makes them who they are in a lot of ways. Like, it's those wink, wink, nod, nods to the fans. It's the suckets and the two sweets and all that stuff throughout the Bullet Club. All those like little tongue in cheek things that they would do with the fans. Like it's so yeah, I thought it was hilarious though. Like I had my buddy Mike Hughes over yesterday. He comes over for most of the AEW shows, and we were watching it, and we were having a good time with that. That was pretty funny. I missed the buckshot initially because I think it happened in picture, and someone tweeted at me, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta check that out." I watched it. I was like, "That is so funny." Also a little off topic, but if anyone wants to check it out, I uploaded it late last night. I don't think actually more people have responded to it on Hive than on Twitter, which is funny because like no one followed me on Hive, but I did an edit. You'll probably it's about 30 seconds long. I edited Randy Marsh's Guitar Hero into the Elite's entrance.
Nice.
Because he does Kansas Wayward Son on the show when he's doing that. But yeah, no, I mean honestly, I kind of hope that they get Punk back to do, because I just think it'd be fascinating to see him back as a heel and them actually pay this off. But I think I would say it's about 50-50 in my mind right now. Like it's a real coin toss, like whether or not if you would ask me a month ago, I'd have said like I'm 90% sure Punk's done with AEW. But after last night, I feel more like it's 50-50. So
I think because of everything that happened last night, it seems a little bit more likely, because like a lot of people are saying, why are you going to do this if you're not going to make money off of it? And to which I say once again, because this is who they are.
Right.
This is just who they are. And you don't have to like it. And I understand why people don't like it. Personally, as someone who, this might get me in trouble, who just finds wrestling stupid, do all of this dumb shit. I love wrestling. It's provided me with a nice little life here, but like it's a dumb sport. It's the dumbest. You can get away with just shit that you're not supposed to be able to get away with, and you can just claim it's a work. You can claim it's a whatever. You just do a lot of dumb shit in professional wrestling. There's no lines, there's no boundaries, and sometimes that'll get you in trouble and everything. But yeah, as someone who just finds wrestling dumb and you can lean into that dumbness, I think that's all they're doing.
Right. And when you look at the kind of timeline of events too, and like just kind of try to make sense of like what is and isn't real, what's a work, what's a shoot and stuff. We always have to keep in mind that like works can turn into shoots and vice versa. So like this isn't something where like it was a shoot the whole time if CM Punk comes back. Like no, something definitely happened, because like there's no reason, there's no other explanation as to why they would have Kenny return after all that time, have a completely different storyline going with him, with like, it's like coming back from injury and like working his way back in, having them wait on the trios titles for that long for him to return, then win the trios titles, have CM Punk win the world title, have everyone vacate everything, and no one's on TV for the next 3 months. You know what I mean? Like there's just no way that was all the plan all along. Now, then maybe they're at a point now where like they can figure things out and like cooler heads may prevail and they might be able to turn it into a work, but it's not one of those things that was a work the whole time. The only thing I want to throw out there though, that makes that ever leaves any seed of doubt when it comes to AEW with me in any way, is I thought the Cody thing was a work until he showed up on WrestleMania. You know what I mean? So like I'm not, when it comes to AEW, I'm not nearly as like confident in like what's a work and what's a shoot. What's Tony Khan putting out to the media? What are the wrestlers putting out to the media? You know what I mean? Like, what are,
So Tony Khan's putting out to the media, no comment.
Well, no comment. No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, anytime that you get any sort of news, it's like, I just never know, because it's like, dude, it's wrestling. It's wrestling. Like, you might always be getting work. There might always be a shoot. It might be a little bit. It's usually a mixture of both, to some degree. So, like, it's just one of those things where, like, when it's AEW, all that kind of stuff keeps me on my toes, because, like, I think that it was totally a shoot, but I also think Tony Khan is smart enough as the owner of that company and a big enough wrestling mark to also recognize, like, if we can figure something out, though, like, even if it's for one more match, it would be astronomical because there'd be so much interest in it.
Sure, if they can figure it out and they can make money off of it, they will. That's just smart business. I mean, look at I hate to drudge this up, but we're in the 25th anniversary of it. Montreal, right? That was 100% shoot, but because Brett and Vince patched things up and the way everything happened with WCW, we got sent there to kill WCW and all this stuff. Like, people have like convinced themselves. Some people still think like it's a work because like, well, look what happened. If it was a shoot, Brett would have held a grudge forever. It's like, no, like people can get over stuff, especially if it means like making money on stuff. So if Punk comes back, it does not mean it was a work the entire time, because it's a very stupid work to keep these guys off television this long and blow up clear plans with Punk as champion, with the Elite as trios champion. And here's the other thing. I don't think Tony Khan is, bless Tony, he appeals to me a lot of times when it comes to his booking.
Sure.
I don't think he is smart enough to lay out something like this as an angle. All right. Like, I just don't think he is going to lay out something like this as an angle.
I'll say this. I think he's smart enough to book something that would come off like a complete shoot potentially to us, because I think he has that kind of mind for it, where like he's just such a lifelong wrestling mark, dirt sheet, like message board guy. But I'm saying I don't think he would knowingly on purpose put himself in the position you just described. Like, I don't think he would blow up all these plans, take the titles off, take the Elite off TV and all this stuff. Like, that just doesn't make any business sense to do any of that if it's just to build interest in a potential match with CM Punk, 6 months or a year later or whatever, like whenever he's back. So like, Caden saying I'm giving Tony Khan too much credit. I think we don't give Tony Khan enough credit, to be honest. Like, I think it's cool as hell that he's like around our age and he's a lifelong fan and he has all the money in the world and he gets to put his fig fed on national television. I'd do the same thing if I had the money. I think it'd be incredible to be able to do what Tony Khan's doing. But I also gave him a lot of credit thinking that he was working us with the Cody negotiations. I thought that him and Cody were working us the whole time about that. And then lo and behold, Cody walks out on WrestleMania and I'm like, oh no, he actually left. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh no. So I get work too, plenty, it's just like anyone else. But at the end of the day, I guess really where we're at is, I think a few days ago, even people would have said, yeah, CM Punk's done. But after last night, it's making people think like, okay, they really trolled him. But I'm with you too, though, Jeremy. Like, the Elite just troll people also. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean Punk's coming back because they're trolling him. But it's also kind of like, if he's not coming back, and here's the other thing, maybe you go out there, you do your digs, and you just need to never do that again. It's maybe they just need to do it one time.
Too.
Yeah,
you're gonna lean into it a little bit because they were heels. They were healing up with the fuck the Elite and the CM Punk chants. There were some fuck CM Punk chants last night as well, but it was Chicago and they were doing this stuff. They didn't do any of that stuff at Full Gear, their first match back. I think the Chicago crowd definitely played a part of why they leaned into it even more. And I don't think we're going to see that like going forward, because they're probably just going to get cheered everywhere else going forward.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right about that. With it being in Chicago, that's obviously the biggest thing. And I definitely should have counted that when I was going through my points there. So you're right. It might've just been a Chicago thing, because they were getting booed. And it makes sense to do that there with it being a pro punk crowd. It's weird though too, because like Chicago is also like, that's an AEW, that's like AEW's home, like without CM Punk, so it's like, it's weird that like, it's just interesting to see. I saw Cher tweet something last night that I thought was pretty accurate. She was like, the same people that cheered for CM Punk for 7 years while he was gone are the ones that think he did nothing wrong. And I think that's I think it's pretty accurate. Like, I feel like that there is a portion of the AEW fan base that like wasn't really AEW fans until CM Punk got to the company. And then like they jumped on the ship also. And a lot of them are still there. And now they're mad because they feel like CM Punk's been wronged or whatever. They're still on his side when it comes to all this. So like, it's interesting to see, but I think at the end of the day, as long as the fans are making noise and people are interested, whether they're booing, cheering, whatever, as long as they're not indifferent and not making any noise at all, I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? Like, you can choose to cheer the Elite. You can choose to cheer CM Punk. You choose to boo whoever you want. As long as you're making noise. John Cena always talked about that too. He's like, man, I don't care if they're cheering me or they're booing me. Like, it'd be a problem if they weren't doing anything. But they're making noise every time I'm out there. That's what matters. So like, that's kind of how I feel about it. I'm obviously I'm very much on Team Elite when it comes to the whole situation, but like I'm also not naive enough to think like, I as a pro wrestling fan, I want to see CM Punk back at AEW just to see how this plays out on TV. Like, I just think it'd be fascinating. So
Caden leaves a super chat, says, even though my pick is with Punk, FCM Punk, and Newark, we'll change your profile picture, you coward. How about you do that? That's
and I'm not even gonna say like FCM Punk. I mean, I have, people know how I feel about him, but like, it's just one of those things, man. Like, I'm a wrestling fan, and over anything else, I'm really a wrestling fan. Like, and if it can be good wrestling television, regardless of how I feel about the people, like, hell, I'm a lifelong Minnesota Vikings fan. Randy Moss is like my favorite player ever. He was a terrible teammate. People didn't like playing with him. He said he'd play when he wants to play. Straight cash homie. Like,
Randy Moss rolled.
Yeah, but he didn't care about anyone himself. Like, completely self-centered. But never tried unless he knew the ball was coming to him. Didn't block for people and stuff. Never ran across the middle.
Yeah,
right. I mean, like, preferably that's how you do it, right? But my point is, I still cheered him every single time he played for the Minnesota Vikings because like I had to just separate like how I thought about. Even he refused to give my dad an autograph in the airport when we were kids. Like we got Chris Carter and Robert Smith and Denny Green and like all other like big time players and the coach on the team. Randy Moss is the only guy who wouldn't sign, and it's just
you should have kicked him in the shin. Jensen.
But what the thing is, like, even then, I still cheered the guy because he was so insanely talented, and that's kind of how I feel about Punk, where it's like I'm gonna like the guy for a lot of reasons, but like what he did on AEW television, I think was some of the best pro wrestling I've ever seen. Some of those feuds, and especially the stuff with MJF, was phenomenal professional wrestling. Like, if you were to come back with all this added heat, I want to see how that looks on television as a pro wrestling fan. So I'm able to separate, I can separate and compartmentalize kind of like my feelings about like a human versus like their talent, as long as they're not doing something like, there's obviously a line there of like, there's certain people I'm not going to cheer because like what I think that they're doing as people like is that bad, but like Punk's not in that boat. Like, Punk's just kind of an asshole, it just kind of is what it is. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean he's necessarily like a terrible person. I think he's kind of an asshole and he's hard to work with. He has a track record of that in like every company he's been in. But like, doesn't mean he's not a fantastic pro wrestler when he's on the screen. I'll always give him credit for that. So I was done. You were too late on the graphic, Jeremy.
It pops up at the end. You gotta just work in a shot. You gotta work in a shot at CM Punk, like just every single time, like it's Brett and Goldberg. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. Just like we talk about we'll talk about MJF here in a second. We'll talk about Regal and Moxley. So yeah, John Moxley, great worker, nice guy, gives back to the business, cares about the business, unlike that asshole CM Punk who's only out for himself. Doesn't matter. Just take the shot at CM Punk anytime you can. Shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
So yeah, that's like I guess kind of like my if you were comparing me to Bret Hart when he talks about Goldberg, he'll always go out of his way to be like, Goldberg can't wrestle, he was unsafe end of my career, like should have never went to WCW because then I never would have had to wrestle that guy. Like, he'll always come back to it. For me, the CM Punk thing is always like fantastic on AEW television. Great wrestling heel, great wrestling baby face, really interesting matches, really interesting storylines, fantastic on the microphone. Can't fight though. You know what I mean? It's just like, so I can give him all the credit in the world, but like if I want to throw out a dig, I'll just tell y'all to go watch this fight against Mike Jackson, where Mike Jackson, who's a part-time fighter, held him down and tickled him in the middle of the UFC octagon. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to hear me, but that has nothing to do with pro wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, that's just personal. But like, but as far as a pro wrestler, I think CM Punk's fantastic at it.
Can't fight though. Gives a shit if he can do this fake pro wrestling stuff. Can't throw hands.
Well, he can throw hands, but he's not gonna do anything. That's the problem.
He can throw them, just gonna miss people.
I mean, ask the Young Bucks. I don't think anyone really got hurt in whatever happened backstage.
Apparently, I mean, I don't know who he knocked out, but depending on, I think the chair knocked out one of them.
That's much different than
punching
someone and knocking them out. But
the biting spot.
That was so funny last night.
The biting spot. When he did that shit, I was just like, oh, okay, Kenny. Okay, Kenny. All right, Kenny. You got me there.
That was hilarious. Jesse Davin, by the way, put up a great it was like a happy Thanksgiving card looking thing, and it's Kenny biting the arm like a turkey leg. So shout out Jesse. You all should check that tweet out. I thought it was really clever how she put that together. But Caden wants me just to go off for a minute. I don't want to like force myself to do that, because here's the thing, like the crazy thing is people think I'm such a giant CM Punk hater. 90% of the time I'm praising the guy. It's just the like 10% when I talk about his MMA run that people get really, really, really upset about. But there's a YouTube video that came out. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I highly recommend. Somebody actually recently did a whole YouTube video. It's like an hour long, and the majority of it deep dives in the UFC run of CM Punk. So like if you think I'm just like bullshitting or just a giant hater, like just watch that video. It's on YouTube. You can't miss it.
How is there an hour-long video on CM Punk's MMA career?
A good portion of it is like explaining his like wrestling career to like people who wouldn't know. And then but then because the thing is, once again, people don't realize he trained for 4 years heading into the Mike Jackson fight. So there is a lot to talk about. He trained for a really long time. He just was terrible at actually fighting, but like he was a part of the sport for like 4 or 5 years.
He did. I do remember like when did he like officially get signed? It was like 2 years before he actually.
Yes. Like, he did that interview with Joe Rogan at Cage Side. And then he went and signed, and started training with Rufus Sport out of Milwaukee. And that's like one of the best camps he could have possibly joined. So like he gave himself every advantage in the world, trained with like Anthony Pettis and Duke Rufus and Sergio Pettis and stuff. And
so he signed December 2014, and he did not fight until September 2016. So nearly 2 years.
Mickey Gall beat him in under 2 minutes, the first fight. Yeah. Rear naked choke. And then the second fight was 2 years after that?
Yeah.
Against Michael Jackson, who's a part-time fighter, who his only Michael Jackson's only UFC win is getting kicked in the nuts and eye gouged and winning by disqualification.
Well, technically, CM Punk is 1-0-1.
Yeah, because Mike Jackson failed the test after.
Yeah, 0-1. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. Mike Jackson, for the record, Michael Jackson defeated CM Punk that night. Nope. Handily defeated him. But yes, in the record book, it didn't count because he smoked weed, and that was a problem at the time. Now it wouldn't even be a suspension with like the way that the limits have changed. But
CM Punk retired without losing.
No, he lost to Mickey Gall straight up.
His last fight, he did not lose.
Oh, okay. So
coming off a no contest, CM Punk.
Look, like I said, the Mike Jackson one is one thing. Sorry, the Mickey Gall thing is one thing. Like he should have never been in the cage with Mickey Gall. That was just completely unfair. But like the Mike Jackson one is like I'm not saying you necessarily should have beat Mike Jackson. I'm just saying like it was that one-sided that it's just like no, like just. But that's the thing, man. Like CM Punk, he was in a tough spot. Like, and this is why I also give him credit for all this. Like he was way too famous to just like fight on like an indie promotion on Fight Pass. Like
he should have though. I mean? Batista did.
Yes, but the difference was like I don't think the UFC had Batista. The UFC it's hard to explain because like when it came to Brock Lesnar, the UFC signed him because he had the legitimate experience in college wrestling, and also he took one MMA fight in Japan and like proved that he could do it, and then came in. Batista was kind of like a novelty thing where like I think he just wanted to prove to himself that he could do it. And he did, but I don't think he was ever trying to make it like a career. And then he went into acting. But CM Punk was just like he was ultra popular still when he signed with the UFC. He had like just recently done the Cabana podcast and stuff, and like they were so it was one of those things where like the UFC was like, hey, even if he can't fight, like this is going to bring a lot of interest. And he made like $500,000 a fight, which is way more than most of the people in the company, like way more than most of the people in the company.
That's more than main eventers and champions get.
Yeah, outside of maybe like 5 to 10 people in the entire company, he was making more than all of them. And So it's one of those things, but like it worked for the UFC. Like his first pay-per-view, he absolutely brought in pay-per-view buys. I actually interviewed Bas Rutten right after the CM Punk fight, like that week. And Boss was like, he was like, man, you got to respect him for doing it. Like, even though it wasn't competitive, but he was like, dude, he's like, the amount of money the UFC made when like it spiked once Punk got put on that card, like there absolutely was proof that pay-per-view buys skyrocketed after that. And like, so I understand the UFC's reasonings for letting Punk do it. I give Punk all the credit in the world for having the balls to do it. Like that's humongous balls for taking a fight in the UFC, like, or 2 fights even in the UFC. It's insanely it's very admirable, but like the skill level is the issue here. And in the comfortability of him calling people on saying, hey, you have a problem with me, come find me and do something about it. And then when someone does, if you can't back it up, that's kind of the thing with me. So
if you take away anything from Jensen's comments right there, it's that CM Punk has massive balls. You're very kind to CM Punk there. Here's my final thoughts on CM Punk's MMA career and career in general. Batista is better, and as big as CM Punk's balls are, Batista's balls and dick is bigger, and CM Punk should not be on the UFC if Batista is not on the UFC. And I understand Batista just wanted to do it to prove it to himself. That's the route Punk should have taken. In no facet of life and entertainment, whether it be Hollywood with his straight to DVD movies, whether it be wrestling where he did not main event WrestleMania, or where it be MMA where he did not pick up a victory, or whether it be life in general, is CM Punk better than the great Batista? That's my final thoughts on the whole.
That's fair. And also, it's the lore. There is very much wrestling lore in the last, 2 decades or so of how big is Batista's dick? It's a question that has been on people's minds for a very long time. And for those of you who don't know, I'm gonna peel the curtain back a little bit here. If you're familiar with Black Label Pro and Mikey Blanton, who runs that company, he is the former Sinbad who used to send that question into Wrestle Shoot about Batista's dick. That's who it is. So I'll go ahead and I'll Wizard of Oz Mikey Blanton right here on the show today. And I only know that because I saw him tweeting about it once, and I asked him, I was like, dude, were you Sinbad? He was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. So
we're gonna talk about Black Label here in like an hour at the rate we're going.
Yeah.
But we got to get Mikey on the show. Black Label rules. So we got to get him on the show. All right. Caden says that he's on his way to Universal to meet SpongeBob. Have fun.
Hey, enjoy.
Let's get into our other AEW. Other stuff was happening on AEW as we talk about Batista's dick. MJF is the champion. You might not know it if you watched Dynamite last night because the champion was not present. I thought this was a big miss for AEW, and I get it. It was on the set of a movie and everything, but that was a big miss to close Full Gear with big kind of reset. MJF is the champion. You have the big angle with Regal kind of turning on Moxley and Blackpool Combat Club, helping MJF. And then Regal just comes out last night. He's like, yeah, MJF will be back next week to explain everything. I thought the vibes were a little bit off on that, but MJF is the champion. He is not babyface. He is a heel once again. What are your thoughts on MJF winning the title and where it's going to go?
I love it. It needed to happen. I love Jon Moxley too. Like he's, we're doing those Fightful awards that we're, doing our nominations and stuff on right now. And, I'm really still racking my brain. I haven't really made any like real decisions yet on who I'm going to decide for each of these categories, but Jon Moxley is way up there for Wrestler of the Year for me. Like if not maybe my number one, like when I consider his indie run that ran parallel to his AEW run and stuff, with the GCW title especially. But my point is like I love Jon Moxley and I'm fine with him being the world champion at any time. But I think that like it was time for MJF to win this title for a lot of reasons. I love the Regal turn. I thought that was really well done. I think that it's a really good look right now for AEW to have their world champion be a homegrown. I only put homegrown in quotes because I knew of him prior, but most people know him strictly as MJF is like just through AEW. They consider him a homegrown star, and I I think that this is a really good timing, because I honestly think that if CM Punk would have never come in, which I'm not in, I want to also make this very clear. When CM Punk won that world championship the first time for AEW, when he beat Hangman, I was on board. I was like, CM Punk should be the world champion. He's got all the momentum, the popularity, like the matches and the stories have been great. Like, he should be the world champion. So I had no problem with Punk winning the title from Hangman. Just want to make that very clear. But
he can't fight though.
True, but my point is, like, had he never come in, I think that Hangman holds on to that title. Moxley never, gets it again. Like, they never do those hot potatoes. And like MJF would eventually beat Hangman for the title, which I think was probably the initial plan, because they planted those seeds all the way back on like the first Dynamite, that like the two of them could be world champion feuds and stuff. So like, I think that eventually, I think that that night at Full Gear was supposed to be MJF beating CM Punk for the title. Now, all that said, we got to the right conclusion regardless. Like, MJF is the champion. He's only like 26, I think, right now. He's only going to get more and more popular and more famous along with this. He's already getting called out by, Paddy Pimblett, and Conor McGregor is talking about it. And like, so it's something where I think it was the right time. It was the right move. MJF should be the world champion. And I saw it on last week's show, I believe, as well. But I love how it opens it up now because of his history in the company, and like with like the pillars and like the younger up and coming roster of AEW. Like, it immediately makes it to where someone like Jungle Boy, Ricky Starkz, we're already seeing it happening for Winter is Coming. Really, any of these guys like Ricky Starkz, Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, like all these kind of guys, like they're all in this spot now where it's like super believable, and it makes sense that like they'd be challenging for the world title if MJF's the champion. So I think it's going to do a really good job of like elevating other people up along with MJF. I think MJF's going to beat all these guys and hold the title for a long time, but like, it's going to be cool because like, it's going to, like, someone like Jungle Boy is going to go from like, in my opinion, from like opening the show against Luchasaurus and, in a badass cage match, but like by maybe 6 months from now, it's like Jungle Boy is like main eventing, going for the world title, because a feud with MJF makes sense. You know what I mean?
I'm with you. As far as like, I do think it's going to elevate a lot of the baby faces that they have. Like, I'm very excited for the Ricky Starkz match. I may do that in a couple of months. Yeah, Jungle Boy will be a good one as well. And I do think that can probably headline a show. Him and Darby, I know MJF has talked about like that Darby match. He thought it was the best like pure wrestling match of the year.
Same.
Last year.
I completely agree. I completely agree with that.
So there's that. There's the Wardlow story you can easily do, and I feel like they got to get back to at some point. I'll say this about it. MJF, right call to do it. Definitely should have won. The way they did it in turning him, basically going back to heel, because he was leaning into the babyface stuff before the match and everything, and they did the big thing with the firm, and of course Regal helps him, and so he's definitely full-blown heel now. Safe. That was a safe call to just make him a heel, because it's very easy for MJF to be a heel. There's plenty of baby faces for him to work with. I think if they went babyface with him, that would have been tougher and a little bit more unpredictable, and just more of a challenge for AEW and for Tony to pull off, because they don't have like a lot of these heels that you think are going to work in that spot. Like Jericho's like the top heel right now, and Jericho's doing his own thing. Like beyond Jericho, who are kind of the heels that it's like, oh yeah, this guy makes sense as challenger for MJF for a pay-per-view. Like I don't feel, and I mean, you can help me out here, but like off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody. Maybe you elevate Joe, since Joe just kind of turned, but and there's some history there. You could play that off, but there just isn't like this big heel that I'm thinking, oh yeah, this guy can work with MJF. I think it would have been a lot more of a challenge for MJF to pull this off as a babyface, and maybe that's why they didn't go with it, because it's like, well, we'll just go with heel. This works. We have more challengers lined up. I didn't fully like that they went just back to heel, just because I thought it was a little safe. We'll see what happens, what the explanation is with Regal, but they did the whole thing with the firm. And now I don't know where this leaves the firm because Ethan Page just lost to Ricky. I guess they're still fired. So MJF just used them to get the chip. And now that's that. I still think the firm should have like a gripe with MJF. I still think MJF should have kind of an issue with them, but definitely more them having an issue with him of like, listen, asshole, like we got you this chip and then you just turned your back on us. Like, I still think they got to continue to explore that a little bit. And I hope they do. And if they don't, I think that's a miss because there's something there with that. So I thought it was just safe that they just went back to heel MJF because he's great at it. But I wanted to see what they could do with babyface MJF.
That's fair. And I think they kind of tested the waters with it a little bit to see kind of how it would work. Because eventually he will have to turn babyface at some point in his career for real. But now isn't the time for that, I feel like. I feel like he is better served as the heel, especially as the champion right now. Especially coming off of like, you know, like Hangman was a babyface, Punk was a babyface, Mox was a babyface. You know, it just changes it up. But and MJF is the ultimate heel to me. Like he sticks to it. He's a lifelong wrestling fan. I'm obviously very impressed by Max. He's one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. Like on paper, top to bottom, if I'm like checking boxes of like everything I like out of pro wrestling, he checks like every single box. You know, and he's so young that he can be this guy for the next 20 years if he stays healthy and he wants to keep doing it. I mean, it's wild to think like how much potential he hasn't even like tapped into yet. And he's already one of the best in the world, in my opinion. But no, I'm with you. Like as far as the roster goes, without elevating anybody, I don't think that there is anyone kind of on that heel side. You could have done a double turn with Moxley, but I don't think you need to necessarily go back to Moxley and MJF, you know, right away. And you could always turn someone like Danielson, like
I mean, Danielson says he's still like a heel, like right. He still comes out of the heel time. Last night it was sort of he protected Regal.
Yeah, that was strange. Yeah,
I didn't. It was a good segment in that like the performances were good, but I'll let it play out. I didn't care for just Danielson stepping in there and then Moxley just still sparing him. We'll see where it goes, but I don't know. I wasn't the biggest fan of that. Yeah, I just wasn't the biggest fan of just sort of just the energy of it, of just, all right, Regal's in the ring, doesn't really explain anything. Here comes Moxley. Danielson gets in the way. Like coming off of that pay-per-view and the big show closing with MJF winning and everything, it just, and I get it, he was on a movie set, just felt like a miss that the champion was not there. And I was really looking forward to how they were going to react in Chicago as well, because I want to see if they were going to cheer MJF, because I think Chicago, I mean, they cheered him when he returned at All Out. I wanted to see what the reaction was going to be to MJF. I wanted to see him like really play off of that crowd and everything. It was just unfortunate that they didn't have him for last night. And it was basically, hey, wait a week and we'll explain some things. But even with what they did last night, Danielson stepping in the way, it's like, I love this man. He's a father. It's like, well, you know what? Your father fucked up and deserved to get his ass beat by Jon Moxley.
Do you think there's any, you would know better than me probably because I haven't paid much attention, but I see a lot of people kind of speculating that Regal could be going back to the WWE.
There is rumor and innuendo that he just signed a 1-year deal, which means it would be up in February, because March, whenever Revolution was, and he came in, that might have been like the first weekend of March, but regardless, around that time, even if that's the case, that's still a few months. They're not just gonna like, I imagine they wouldn't just send him home in November without, if they have him under contract for a few more months, without paying something off. Like Moxley's got to slap him or some shit at some point, right? Like we got to have some type of payoff of other than just Moxley be like, walk, leave, go away. And Moxley he's just kind of cool with losing the title like that and doesn't get any type of explanation or payback for the whole thing. I think that would be a miss if you still have him. If it is a 1-year deal, I could definitely believe that he just goes back to WWE. His son is there. Yep. We know how much Triple H loves him. And honestly, like, if he goes back to WWE, Triple H is just going to hand him a key and be like, whatever you want to do. You want to go scout indie talent? You want to come to all the shows? Whatever you want to do, go for it. And Regal can get whatever type of job he wants there. So if it is a 1-year deal, I would imagine that Triple H is going to be making a huge offer when it's up. But they have time before that to pay this off in some way.
Yeah. I'm with you. And people forget, like, Regal and Triple H are like tag partners in WCW like forever ago. I mean, they got a bond for that goes way back. And like you said, Charlie Dempsey, Regal's son. I was saying it when he was on NXT UK, man. Like, that guy he is untapped potential waiting to break out. Like, he could be a real big star for that company. He's got a great look. He's great technically. He obviously comes from the wrestling family with the Regals. Like, so I think it makes sense for Regal to go back if he wanted. Yeah, what an interesting time, because I would have never thought he'd go back after like leaving and like how good things are going for him in AEW. It felt like, but at the same time, like there's been such a huge change in the WWE with Triple H taking over and all on the creative side and developmental and of all of it really. It's weird because I always say Triple H. I know Stephanie and Nick Khan are like technically in charge, but it's really Triple H. Really, like it feels like, right?
They just signing checks,
right? He's the one making like the day-to-day, like what we're seeing on TV type decisions, the storylines and whatnot, and the matches. But yeah, man, that's it was interesting to think about, because when Regal left, I do think that they have to pay off the Regal thing on AEW for sure. They can't just be the end of it. He just walks away and leaves last night. I don't think that's the case.
He's got a fuck Excalibur.
No, I saw that tweet. That was hilarious. Yes, I agree with that 100%. The man in the mask.
I don't care how you do it. That's the biggest angle in AEW history. If Tony Khan doesn't pay this off, then take away all the Booker of the Year, retroactively take it away. This is the greatest angle they've ever had. And Regal's just going to walk. We're just going to let this sexual tension that's it. What? No, like not happening. All right. All this foreplay and shit, Jensen, we got to get the climax there. You know about all the foreplay. You're fooling around with. I don't want to give too much of my personal life here away, but
sure.
You're fooling around and you're in the mood and everything, and you're ready to go. You don't just walk away. Sometimes you just be like, "Let's fucking go. Let's fuck." All right.
Let us fuck.
The wife knows what I'm talking about.
There you go. That's funny because I know she listens to the show, so I'm sure she's having a great time hearing you talking about this right now. Also, hot take. This is completely 100% off topic. Best Fast and Furious movie of all time, Tokyo Drift. So let's move on to the next topic.
Tokyo Drift is not the greatest of all time. It's the one below. The rest of them are all the greatest.
I know. I saw you guys' list, and then I saw you guys like debating it afterwards. I used to hate Tokyo Drift. I thought it was terrible, but like I think the new ones are so bad that like I think it's made Tokyo Drift a lot better. But anyways,
everyone go watch SV3 this past week, where SV3 and I ranked the Fast and Furious movies, and his list was awful, and mine is correct. Dude Solo says, "Is this relevant? Excalibur and Regal fucking? Yes, it's very relevant. They've been building this for months.
Yeah,
it's very relevant." Then I equated it to other things.
Yeah, we make comparisons and everything. Come on, does you know what the show is by now?
Yeah, what's wrong with you people? Watch the product. All right. Anything else on MJF?
No, I think we covered AEW pretty well. We did about an hour on AEW. So enjoy. Check out Day After Dynamite later today to get additional AEW thoughts. Nope. Oh, it's not no Day After Dynamite?
Day After Dynamite aired at midnight last night.
Will already did the show.
Yeah, okay. Will Washington is actually like hangs out with his family and stuff on Thanksgiving. I'm like,
yeah, that's understandable. Just like, I asked him if he wanted to be on the Power Ranger show tomorrow, and he was like, "Man, if I could make it." And I was thinking, I'm like, dude, it's like 6:30 a.m. his time. He's definitely not like I shouldn't have even asked. But I also invited Sean on, but I know he's going to be traveling. But of course, you're welcome as well. Tomorrow, once again, for anyone who missed at the top of the show, tomorrow morning, Fightful Overbooked, myself and SP3 are going to be talking Jason David Frank and Power Rangers. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, we can move on to WWE topics. I actually don't have a lot of thoughts on the WWE topics. It's probably going to be kind of a quick quick category, probably, unless you have a lot to deep dive on the WWE. But
I have tons of thoughts on WWE. Are you kidding me? It's my favorite wrestling promotion of all time.
You want to be a professional wrestler, or do you want to be a WWE superstar? WWE superstar sounds a whole lot better to me than being a professional wrestler.
WarGames is on Saturday. Stephen Jensen, WWE Survivor Series. They're bringing back the WarGames. We kind of group these two things together.
Yes.
In the men's WarGames, we have the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, the Usos, Solo Sikoa, and the Great Sami Zayn against Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Ridge Holland, Butch, and Kevin Owens. There was speculation and rumor and innuendo and some reports that Owens got hurt at a live event, which seemed to be true. Seemed like he banged up his knee a little bit, that he might miss WarGames. Fortunately, he's fine. He's going to tough it out, do WarGames. I'm sure he'll jump off the cage and do some dumb shit because he's Kevin Owens and he's great. But Kevin Owens is the fifth man. Where do you see this going with WarGames? Do you think Roman takes a pinfall here?
No, I don't. But I do think it's interesting that Owens, he returned, and I really liked Sami Zayn's reaction to that because I think that's going to be foreshadowing the future of this whole story. I've said it a lot. I think if heading into WrestleMania, if they have access to, if Logan's healthy and they can do Logan and Jake Paul versus the Usos, I'd do that at WrestleMania for the spectacle of it and the attention it would bring in. But I'm also totally good with the idea if we get to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos for WrestleMania for the titles. I think that's very possible. Maybe even a triple threat between those three teams that I just mentioned, even maybe. But I think this is planting the seeds for that eventually to happen, where at some point the Bloodline's going to turn on Sammy, and he's going to be the most over babyface in the entire company. And Kevin Owens is going to be right there to have his back, when they turn on him, I feel like. And then I think we're going to get Owens and Zayn against the Bloodline. And I think that could be really good because Owens and Zayn is a tag team we haven't seen in a long time. And we haven't really seen them as a tag team to their full potential in the WWE really at all. So, so that's how I feel about Kevin Owens. I think he's a good addition to the match. He's one of my favorite performers in the WWE still to this day. I love Kevin Owens. He's one of my favorite indie performers ever. Is Kevin Steen, and I like I said, I think that this does more than just to set up WarGames. I think it sets up eventually long term because timeline wise, in my mind, I'm thinking Sami Zayn gets turned on sometime around the beginning of the year, and it's Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn for the title at Royal Rumble is what I would do. And then something based off of that would eventually lead into, Owens and Zayn as a tag team against the Bloodline is how I would personally kind of play it out in my own head.
I think we're going to get Sheamus and Roman potentially at the Royal Rumble. I think we've seen Roman and Owens. We've seen Roman and Drew. Sheamus has had a great year. I think that's a easy story to tell and a fun story to tell with Sheamus and Roman. I mean, you gotta remember, and maybe they'll bring this up, maybe they won't. Roman's first title win was Survivor Series, where he won the tournament because Seth Rollins got hurt, so they did the big tournament, and Roman won, and immediately Sheamus cashed in the Money in the Bank.
Was that during the League of Nations thing?
Fuck that group. I don't remember
because that was the worst group ever. That was awful. But I think that was, unless I'm mistaken, because I think Sheamus cashed in, and that was the whole League of Nations thing, which also didn't help Roman because they were trying to get over Roman as a face, but the guys he was feuding with no one cared about. So it was a giant miss. Anyway, sorry.
It wasn't until they brought in Vince and did that whole thing that people cared about the Roman run. But my point being, Sheamus cost Roman his first title run. His first title run lasted 30 seconds because Sheamus came in and beat him by cashing in the money. There's a story there between Sheamus and Roman. A lot of history between those two. So I think Sheamus is the guy to kind of go forward with Roman at Royal Rumble. So I think Sheamus actually gets the victory on Sunday at Survivor. I don't think he pins Roman. I would actually have the Bloodline win, honestly. I like when a heel faction is sort of dominant in WarGames and it establishes it as their match. I don't think Undisputed Era should have ever lost a WarGames match. I don't think like the Horsemen should have ever like. I like when it's just a heel faction just wins those type of matches. So I think Bloodline should win, but I understand if they have Sheamus win. I think we'll see a lot of Owens and Sammy interactions. I think they'll play off of that. I don't know who takes the fall. Probably maybe Jey Uso will take it because he's kind of sort of on the outs. I think it'll lead to Rumble. And then we'll see more kind of interactions, threads with Bloodline, Owens, Sammy, and then finally Mania is at some point we'll get the big turn, probably a little after the Rumble. Mania, Canada, Montreal, Survivor or not Survivor, Elimination Chamber. That's probably when you do the big turn because that's going to get a huge reaction. Sammy and Kevin,
they're in Montreal for that.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, I didn't realize. Yeah, that's literally perfect.
Yeah, so that you get a big reaction there, and then Mania you do Owens and Zayn against Usos for the titles. So that's where I kind of see things going. We'll see a little bit with Kevin and Sammy at Survivor Series. We'll see even more at the Rumble leading into Elimination Chamber. Big turn. We go on to Mania. That's my little quick fantasy booking there. But I do think Sheamus comes out looking very strong at Survivor Series on Saturday, and it sets up the title program with Roman. But I'm glad Kevin Owens is back in the mix. He was there for a while, and then he went away off television, and according to reports, is because like the Sammy and Bloodline stuff like really caught fire, and they're like, we can't really do this turn right now that we were thinking about doing because it's just going too well. This, in my mind, we're now stretching it all the way out the turn until February. So by that point, it's probably still going to be hot. Sammy, Roman, Bloodline, they're all great, but you at least get a lot more mileage out of it than if you were trying to do it a few months ago or weeks ago.
Yeah, and I agree with you about like this is the story's working really well. So like I would stretch it out until you feel like you're kind of like jumping the shark with it. Like keep riding this out. Don't do the turn just for the sake of doing the turn. Like things are working really, really well. And I like the idea of Sheamus too, by the way. Like I hadn't really considered him in like that mix for the world title right now, but like him and Roman would have a really good match. I haven't been watching a lot of WWE lately, but like when I do see Sheamus, like he still looks like he's in there, like he's hitting hard, like it looks super believable. He's been having like some good matches, like the clips that I've seen recently. So like I'd be happy to see him, back in a spot like that, especially if, oh, and by the way, I gotta table this so I don't forget to bring it up. But yeah, I'd be fine with Sheamus versus Roman for the title. I was gonna mention real quick. You said Danielson talking about how he doesn't want the spotlight in that interview. He said the spotlight like 5 times in a row, and I was like,
"Come on our show, Bryan Danielson."
I know. Come on, like you want this spotlight, Danielson.
All these spotlight, MJF talking about it. All these spotlight
about
references.
Our show, man. They're all watching it, but no one wants to come on. Well, I should say that we've been getting some awesome interviews, but like these people are talking about our show and then not coming on the show. It's kind of weird, but yeah. So I'll go. I'm gonna stick with I'm gonna say the Bloodline wins for what it's worth. I'm gonna go with the Bloodline winning this match because I do like the same thing as you as far as like the dominant heel teams, and I agree with you about the Undisputed Era should have never lost WarGames as well. And one other thing I'll bring up about WarGames, because I know we'll talk about the women's match here in a second because that's our other spotlight, but I really wish they'd change the rules for WarGames a little bit. That's just me personally. I've always said that. Like I wish there was like an elimination aspect or something to where like it always feels like they're just like killing time until everyone's in the ring, and it's like there needs to be more of an advantage, I feel like, for the team that has the person advantage, because there really isn't. Like, because by the time that everyone's in the ring, it's kind of all to even. Everyone always separates and squares off, and like it's like, okay, now the match is starting, and it's like, the match has been going on for a half hour. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like there needs to be some tweaks to WarGames. I feel like there needs to be some major tweaks to the Royal Rumble. That's a whole other topic, but like. That's just me personally. I think WarGames is a badass concept. I love the double ring and the cage and the whole deal and the entering one after another after the time and all that. I love everything about the whole idea of WarGames, but I wish there was more urgency and more elimination style or something to where there was actually more weight and more stakes in the idea of coming in one after another and being on teams versus like we're going to beat each other with weapons for a half hour and then the match starts. And then it's just one person, gets defeated and the whole match is over. I just wish it was just tweaked a little bit personally.
Yeah, change the rules up, Jensen. We're gonna give you the booker. We're gonna give you the pencil.
Dude, if you want to hear, I mean, just real quick, Royal Rumble, same kind of thing. Like, there should be rules where I honestly think if any body part hits the ground, you should be out. I don't care if you go over the top rope or not. You leave that ring, you're out of the match. Or there should be a 10 count, just like any other match. You get out of the ring, the referee counts to 10. If you don't get back in, you're out. If you're coming out to the ring for the Royal Rumble, if you don't enter that ring before the next person's entrance, you're eliminated. Like, you can't just be out of the ring and get beat up like Heath Slater every year and not even enter the match until, like, there's all these little things that I feel like would like, they jumped the shark so bad with all like the doing handstands outside the ring and all this stuff. Cause like technically 2 feet didn't hit the ground. It's like, it's cool. It's like, I get that it's a cool idea, especially for like the kids, but like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like it, like, shouldn't the idea of the Royal Rumble really be like the ground's hot lava? Like, you know what I mean? Like when you're a kid, like you touch the ground, you're out. I feel like that's a pretty simple concept that people can get behind.
Yeah, Stephen Jensen shooting on rules and wrestling.
Dude, well, that's the thing. It just doesn't make sense. Like the Royal Rumble is my favorite.
How does it not make sense? It's both feet hit the floor.
Well, but both feet hit the floor as long as you go over the top rope. So there's people just leaving the ring all the time. Austin won a Royal Rumble once. McMahon won that Royal Rumble where they fought all around the arena, and it was like they weren't even in the match, and then they won the Royal Rumble. Like Santino Marella almost won when he probably should have in hindsight, considering you did win that Royal Rumble that year. Remember, he like hit under the ring the whole time, popped out of bed, and like
smart.
It's
Why
lame.
are you punishing people for being smart?
It's a lame loophole of a rule in a match that should be a lot more fun.
More people should do this. I'd hide under the ring the entire damn time. Wouldn't come out. Big E had the best. Big E had the best thing of why no one. He said he was just gonna like come out just like Trunks, oil himself up, go full oil, just lay there middle of the ring, dead weight. So you can't like pick him up or anything, get him over the top rope. Just couldn't do it. This is how you win the Royal Rumble. That's the way to do it.
He went with you ever see the Always Sunny episode where they try to
like, grease up Frank?
Well, yeah, the greased watermelon in the public pool and all that. That's exactly what that's so funny. Big E wants to grease himself up so they can't
get a hold of
him off the ground.
Yeah. The best.
Oh, that's legitimately popping. I hadn't heard him say that. That's so funny. That's hilarious, Big E. If you ever hear that is such a funny idea. Like in people might not know in amateur wrestling, in MMA, there's actually something called greasing, which it's illegal and they test for it. But like back in the day, especially before they tested for it, people used to like take baths in like oils and grease and stuff the night before they'd wrestle, so that like when they would get out there on the mats and they started sweating, they would sweat grease and oil instead of sweat, so it'd be hard for people to grab onto them. And that's dude, that's so funny that Big E has that idea. Not even to wrestle greased. He's like, I want to grease and then just lay in the middle of the ring and no one will be able to pick me up.
Yeah.
That's such a funny idea.
That's the way to do it.
Good stuff.
See, this is what people got to think of. You're over here. They under your rules, they just slide them out under the ring. Just like, all right, push them under the ring. That's no fun. Where's the fun in that?
Well, I mean, it would detract people from just laying in the middle of the ring. I think my rules make sense. Listen, even if you want to keep it over the top rope, I just feel like anything touches, like you're out. Like there's way too many of these like 1 foot touched or like one limb or like someone like lands on their ass.
It's one person. You're shooting on Kofi Kingston.
No, I'm not. I'm shooting on Katie Catanzaro for doing handstands outside the ring. I'm shooting on The Rock when he won the Royal Rumble, when like one of his feet definitely hit the ground, and probably both, but he still
does the spots. Kofi is most famous for
but his thing, John Morrison did it too. Like, but those were different from this perspective sometimes. Those guys were like jumping like onto like the barrier, like they were like jumping onto a chair or something. I'm talking people literally having 2 limbs. It's like in football. Like you need to have 2 limbs in. It doesn't necessarily have to be 2 feet, but like if a foot touches and like your butt touches, like you're in bounds or you're out of bounds, right? Like with this, it's the same kind of thing. Like, if you land on both of your hands, that should count as 2 feet. Like, you're just walking around on your hands instead of your feet. Like, you're out.
Your hands are not your feet, Stephen Jensen.
It should count. It should count.
Do you know the difference?
Caden saying I hate fun. This isn't when Kofi jumped on pancakes. See, that's lame. Like, it's funny, but like it's.
Why do you hate pancakes? What if it was waffles?
You ever seen the Harold and Kumar Christmas movie? Waffle
it's been
Bot?
a while.
There was a thing called Waffle Bot that it hates pancakes. But I love waffles and pancakes. And I would repeat the line, but I can't say it nowadays because it's like times have changed. You can't really say some of those words anymore. But like the Waffle Bot was pretty funny. He despised pancakes because he makes only waffles. But anyways, I'm about pancakes, and I love the New Day. I love Kofi. I think he's incredible. I think he's super innovative, and what he did for the Royal Rumble, I think they'll always remember that kind of stuff. But isn't it weird to you that like you can stay in, but like you just like you're on your feet on the ground, but you're standing on pancakes, and you're still somehow in the Royal Rumble?
I do hate the rule of like after you've been eliminated, you can just come back in and like eliminate people. That's very stupid.
I agree.
That's very dumb. I hate.
There's referees all around the ring, like everyone's seeing it. No, I agree.
It's one thing if like the ref missed it, like the Austin Rumble win where like the refs didn't see him go over, so like he got back in. I think it was like the Bray, like didn't Brock like toss a bunch of people out, and then Bray and all of them just got back in the ring and just like tossed Brock.
I think so. Yeah, we've seen that a lot in the WWE.
Yeah, it's dumb.
That kind of stuff.
That's a dumb rule. That's a very dumb rule.
So, anyways, tweak some of the rules WWE, and if not, I mean, I'm still going to keep watching. But like, I just think that there's ways to make it a little bit better. And I think Sean would agree. I've never heard his full breakdown on what he'd do for the Royal Rumble to change it, but I have seen him tweet like that he would change Royal Rumble rules. I'd imagine they're probably pretty similar to what I'm saying.
He's a hater, though. What does Sean Ross Sapp know?
Sure.
My WWE Spotlight is the women's WarGames match.
Yeah.
We have a mystery woman that will be revealed tomorrow night on WWE SmackDown. Right now, it is Bianca, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and Michin, right? Michin. I think I got that right.
Mia Yim. Didn't they change her name back to Mia Yim already?
I don't know. It's something new every day. Against Damage Control, Bailey, Io Sky, Dakota Kai, Nikki Cross, and Rhea Ripley. So the fifth woman, Jensen, a lot of speculation that it could be Sasha Banks because they are in Boston. I do not buy this at all. I'm pretty adamant that it's Becky Lynch. I've been kind of adamant that it's Becky Lynch. There's now more reports that, hey, Becky was backstage at Monday's Raw. People are saying Candice LeRae. I think Candice would have made sense. I think she's hurt. I'm not 100% on that, but she's been off TV for a while. And it looked like they were setting up to where it was going to be Candice LeRae. And now, if it's Candice LeRae, feels like a little bit of a letdown. Maybe you probably should have done that on like Monday. The fact that they're waiting until SmackDown to do it, they're going to be in Boston, I think, for SmackDown. So you got to have someone big. Becky or Sasha are the two that fit the bill here. And I think it's going to be Becky.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Becky as well. I think it's so they're going to announce it on SmackDown.
That's what Bianca said, because everyone just kind of thought it was going to happen on Monday, and Bianca's like, we're going to reveal it on Friday. Well, it seems like it will be announced on SmackDown.
Because the only other thing I was thinking is like, so if it's going to be announced on SmackDown, I think it's going to be Becky. I think if they wait until the pay-per-view to announce it, I think it's possible that because Mia is doing the OC versus Judgment Day match also on that card.
No, there's no match between them. It's just AJ and Finn.
Just AJ versus Finn. I thought it was like a team versus team thing. I was just thinking
because Rhea's in WarGames as well.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I was gonna say maybe there was a way they could take like Mia out of the match and like maybe it's Sasha and Naomi is like the big, it's both of them or something. But like, I don't think Sasha's coming back. Like, I don't know why she would be like copywriting or trademarking like other names right now if she was going to be Sasha Banks going forward in the WWE and stuff. That's just me personally. So I've kind of got my eye on that. I don't see Sasha coming back, at least not right now. So that kind of just process of elimination, I would go Becky as well.
We both think it's Becky. Hopefully I'm torn on Sasha Banks as far as like coming back. and stuff. She said she had something big for November. We're almost at the end of November. We haven't had any announcements. I assume she's just going to announce her crystal line at some point. They're her healing crystals. I assume that's what it's going to be.
Does she sell like how does like she sells like Napoleon Dynamite, like put the crystals in the time machine type stuff?
Pretty sure she likes that stuff. She's into that stuff. So it feels like
there might be something to it. If it makes your life better, I'm all for it. Like I'm not going to sit here and judge just because I might think something is silly. Like
she's in with like crystals. She's in with like a CBD or like a marijuana company.
See, I believe in that. Like I think that works. So.
So I feel like it's gonna go maybe it's something with the fashion route. I think that's why she's like trademarking stuff. I think she comes back to wrestling at some point. I still think it probably is WWE at some point. It makes sense if it's Survivor Series, it's Boston and everything. I feel like they're kind of getting people's hopes up that it's going to be her since they delayed it to Friday. But Becky's my choice. I'll be excited to see Becky back because Becky's great and she's going to be a baby face again. And I think Damage Control should win the match though, because just go back to my theory of I think heels should just always win war games. My booking's very predictable. Just heels win war games. But it's not full. This isn't like the full Damage Control team. It is, but they only have 3 people. So if like Nikki Cross takes a pen, sure, whatever.
True.
That makes sense.
Yeah. My prediction, I'm gonna go with Damage Control strictly because Io Sky rather now is my favorite like in the match. So like I'm just gonna go with Io's team. But I like
her. Can we get her theme back?
Oh, I know. It was so badass. Her elite figure I still haven't bought. I'm probably gonna actually buy it today. They got like some sales going on ringside, but like it's one of the best WWE elite figures I think they've ever made. It has like her like with like her black jacket with like the hood with like the fur and stuff. Like it's an incredible action figure. But I'm just going with that team because I like Io the best of everyone in the match, but. I really, really, really like Bianca too, though. It's pretty close. Like I think Bianca is like total. Like what WWE has gotten out of Bianca Belair, I feel like they could not have dreamt of anything even close to as good as it's gone. I feel like, and that's not like nothing against Bianca. It's just like someone who's newer that like came through NXT. That it's like you never know when they hit that main roster how it's going to go. And I think she has just absolutely knocked it out of the park at every turn. So like, I got to give massive credit to Bianca for what she's doing. So and all the women in this match, like every woman in this match, I think is very, very talented. And I think it's going to be a really good War Games match. But like I said, just personally speaking, Io is my favorite. So I'm going with her team. But like, man, Bianca is just like, I feel like it just really is. Yeah, she really like, because what they've done with Bianca, they like, and this is not an easy thing to do. Like, I feel like Bianca's on the same level as like Charlotte, Sasha, Bailey, Becky. Like, as far as my perception of her on the show, I feel like she can beat all those women. She has beat a lot of those women. And like, I think like WrestleMania main event, like you can main event WrestleMania, like Bianca versus Charlotte and stuff. You know what I mean? Like there's like, I feel like they have another massive female star with Bianca Belair. And if she stays healthy, she could be that for decades with them. And I feel the same way about a lot of the women in this match, by the way. A lot of them could be elevated to that kind of level. And some have been there. Like Alexa's had really big pushes. Asuka's been at the top and stuff like that. But Bailey, of course, who I think Bailey's doing the best work of her career right now with Damage Control. I really like her with this group. But man, 2 thumbs up for not only the booking of Bianca, but like for Bianca herself, because it takes her as a performer to take that push and do something with it. And I think she has just exceeded any expectation I think anyone could have possibly had for her.
Bianca and Charlotte, that's the Ric Flair dream match.
I love it.
That's Austin Rock. It could be as big as Austin Rock if built right. People are going to be mad about that. People were mad about that. But look, man, I actually do give a good build to Bianca and Charlotte. That's a huge match.
I agree. I completely agree. Completely.
Let's move on, Jensen. Everybody watch War Games on the Cock on Saturday. There's nothing better to do.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
Let's do it. I know. Let's do it. We missed last week, so we got something to talk about.
How do I set this up? Tyrus won the title.
the title. No, Jeremy. Tyrus is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the National Wrestling Alliance, one of the most prestigious companies in the history of professional wrestling. Tyrus is their world champion. I wanted to make sure to tee that up for you a little bit better. You can't just say he just won the title. I mean, he is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
He won this title. I banned NWA from the spotlight after this, but being a fair man, you picked it as your spotlight. Yep. And this show is a collaboration. This is not my show. This is not your show. Whatever the other person picks as the spotlight, that's what they want to talk about. And so I was not going to be like, nope, I banned it. We're not talking about this. I banned it from my end. Okay.
True.
You have picked this as your spotlight. So
yeah, it needs to be said. So Tyrus is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He won the title at Hard Times 3. It was a triple threat match. It was himself, Matt Cardona, and the former champion Trevor Murdoch. Of course, Matt Cardona being the former champion before Murdoch. And basically what this match was Murdoch and Cardona fighting each other on the outside of the ring, and Tyrus just being there. And at one point, Tyrus did his thing, where he jumped off the second rope and, did a barrel roll and that kind of stuff. And I thought that was pretty hilarious because, Twitter exploded. This is the NWA style that the women aren't able to do. And it shows Tyrus, falling over, it's just okay. I'll say this. He didn't win via heart punch, which I was expecting. He did not use the heart punch to win the match. I'm trying to remember what he used now though, because I know it wasn't the heart punch. And now I can't remember what move he did. It was it was like a Tongan death grip choke slam or something like that. He put someone in a really bad looking Tongan death grip. It was Murdoch. I'm almost positive. I think it had to, because I don't think he pinned Cardona. Anyway, I watched this match 2 weeks ago. A lot of time has already passed. A lot of things have happened since this match. So my memory's a little bit fuzzy on it, but I'm pretty sure it was a Tongan death grip choke slam that he did for the finish. And after all this time of Tyrus being the TV champion and, him turning, teasing whether or not he's going to turn the title in and get another title shot. And the tension between him and Black G's as his manager and their differences on whether or not he should try to be a double champion and all this stuff. At the end of the day, they actually did it. They put their world title on Tyrus. I feel like the NWA product is going to be it was already at a very low viewership, but it's going to be at an all-time low it's not even just the Tyrus thing. If you watch, I've talked about it on the Weekender, check it out on Fightful Select. This past episode of NWA Power, I rarely ever do this because I'm generally on the Weekender, I'm really overly positive when it comes to most stuff, or at least I'll highlight the positive stuff and just kind of turn my head to the negative. And I straight up said, don't watch Power this week. It's a bad show. It's a bad hour of wrestling. The matches weren't good. The storyline progressions aren't good. Where they're heading with things isn't good. They have some good talent that they have access to in the company, but that doesn't matter when the show is as bad as it is. I just need to make my point here. I need to find the NWA Power results from this past week because I need to man, I know they're up on Fightful. I just gotta find them. But the show was it was 2 or 3 matches. I got this pulled up. I apologize for the wait, y'all. There's been so many results that you guys put up that I gotta get to it here somehow. My point is it was a really, really bad show. And Tyrus is their champion. It's they the timing, right? Where he wins the belt, and so much of the motivation for him having that title is clearly that he's putting that belt on Fox programming. And within days, Trump has announced he's going to run for president, and there's Tyrus on Fox with this title belt. And this is exactly what they wanted for them as their champion. You know what I mean? This was the whole point was you got the title on somebody who you think you're getting this exposure, which you are definitely getting exposure on Fox from Tyrus. But I think the problem with doing that is there's a lot of people who don't like that. And there's a chunk of your fan base that you might be losing. There's not a lot of fans there to begin with. And now you're going to alienate even more fans because they don't like Trump, or they don't like Fox, or they don't like, the Tyrus and his book and his views and stuff. So it's like one of those things that's like, I just feel like it's a gigantic just lose scenario for everybody by doing this. And I'm not even going to sit here and like hate on Tyrus as a human being. Because I don't like to give any of my own political views, because I think people like to listen to me because of my wrestling. Like, I don't want, like, my personal opinions and stuff, I don't think really matter. But it's like, when you make a move like this, when you're Billy Corgan, you're really drawing the line there, I feel like, with your fan base, and being like, yeah, I know the feedback. Like, but we're not listening to Twitter, because the people watching our show aren't on Twitter because they're too old to use Twitter. Or like, maybe just they look and they're like, hey, no one's watching anyway, so we're just gonna do whatever we want to do. And like, however we can get buzz, we'll take it. And that just kind of feels like what they're doing. Like, they have to know Tyrus isn't good in the ring, and it's getting them like X-Pac type, which wasn't fair, by the way, to Sean Waltman. I don't like that term. I shouldn't have even used it, but the go away heat for Tyrus. I feel like in their mind, they're like, we're getting people talking about this, and any publicity is good publicity. But in reality, it's just making the product even worse, and even less people are going to watch it very, very, very quickly. Because I know you don't even really want to talk about this. This was NWA's Power show this past week. It was a segment with Tyrus coming out talking about how he needs to find challengers for the title. It was Jordan Clearwater getting his first title defense for the TV title, because you need to get 7 to get a world title shot. His first title defense was him winning by time. Well, it was a time limit draw, but he like had the match won. Like, he was pinning Mims. Like, it was 1-2, time ran out. And it was like, why would you even do this? Like, because it still counted as a successful title defense, even though it was a time limit draw. So you've immediately pigeonholed your new TV champion as a guy who has to win matches by time limit draws. Odinson beat Ryan Davidson in just like a basic kind of squash match with a pounce. They set up the Country Gentlemen versus the Fixers on NWA USA TV, which no one's going to watch. And the main event of the show was Kratos versus Aaron Stevens, which ended almost immediately by DQ when the multiple question marks came out and attacked Kratos. Like, that was the whole show. That was the entire show. Was like multiple run-ins, disqualifications, time limit draws, and like one quick match with Odinson and Davidson. That's it. That's an entire hour of programming coming off of your new world champion winning your title. Like, it's just a bad product. It just is what it is.
I don't want to talk about NWA.
No, that's why I went as long as I did, because I know you didn't want to. So I figured I'd just speak for the both of us there. And here's the thing. I cover the show every week for the Weekender. So like, I'm not one of these people that just like armchair quarterbacking, like don't watch the product, don't pay attention. I just jump on the bandwagon like, fuck Tyrus, fuck Billy Corgan, fuck NWA, fuck all that. I'm not like that. I cover the show. So I actually do know what I'm talking about when it comes to this. And I want the product to be better. But all this was a giant step in the wrong direction.
Here's the one thing I'll say about this company. I don't think Billy Corgan knows what he's doing. I don't think he cares. There was a report that he was not even present for the Hard Time show and the TV tapings because of Smashing Pumpkins' commitments. He put that over one of like 3 pay-per-views that they run a year where they were crowning this new champion, and decided, nope, I have a Smashing Pumpkins yet, which is fine. That's where he gets most of his money. That's great. I don't think he cares. I think he is just doing shit. And I think he is just doing whatever he wants that he thinks is going to generate some type of buzz, good or bad. And this is what he's going to do. Fine. I'm not giving it any attention. I'm not giving it any time of day or thought, because if the owner of the company does not care to show up to one of his 3 pay-per-views a year, I do not care to talk about one of his 3 pay-per-views a year. So best of luck to Billy Pumpkins and Tyrus and the whole thing they have going on there. with whatever they are trying to do. I will not watch. I will not talk about it on this show.
There you go. Well, that's fair. I'll talk about that when it needs to be talked about. But like, but it's one of those things where it's like, I want to just full disclosure. The first concert I ever went to without my parents ever as a teenager, I saw Billy Corgan live. It's wild, man. It's wild how much time changes. Like and he wasn't with Smashing Pumpkins at the time. He was with a band called Swan, which was like his like side project when the Pumpkins weren't touring. So like, I remember seeing Billy Corgan like in concert and like thinking I was such a fan, and I was so excited when he got involved in wrestling and with like Impact, and then that whole thing, like there was a huge blow up with that, and then like I was really excited when he took over the NWA because I thought he'd do something different. He'd been on like the Joe Rogan podcast and talked about wrestling and stuff, and I'm like, okay, cool, like this is gonna be something different. I think it's gonna really work, and like it just hasn't. Like and it's getting worse and worse. And it's a brand, it's the NWA. Like this is a prestigious brand, man, or at least it used to be. And like it's real weird where it's gotten to nowadays, in my opinion. So we can move past it now. And like Jeremy said, there are going to be weeks, I'm sure, that he's not going to want to talk about certain stuff, and same with me. And sometimes it just needs to be talked about, though. Like we talked about Tyrus leading up to this quite a bit, and I couldn't just ignore him winning the title. I had to talk about it on the show. So
let me know when Freddie and Phil present pro wrestling starts up. That is what I will back, not this Billy Pumpkins venture. All right.
Okay. What's the next topic?
Impact Wrestling.
This isn't much better. What?
Well, I genuinely want your thoughts on this angle because at least it's something. Josh Alexander successfully defended the Impact World Title at Overdrive against Frankie Kazarian. And then after the match, Bully Ray came out and he said, I'm going to look you in your eye. I'm going to cash in my Call Your Shot gauntlet at Hard to Kill. That's when we're going to face. I'm not going to cash in now. Hard to Kill, one-on-one. Let's fucking go. And then he attacked Josh Alexander and he beat him up with a chair and he threatened to beat up and pile drive his wife and beat her up with a chair unless Alexander just handed him the title. Alexander's just kind of like, here you go. And that's how we got Bully Ray against Josh Alexander for Hard to Kill. We did talk about Bully Ray winning it and him being the next in line for the title. Not a fan of that. But I wanted your thoughts on this angle and like, did this work for you, Stephen Jensen?
Well, I mean, we all knew it was coming, right? So like, I was already like braced myself and prepared that like, we're heading towards Bully Ray versus Josh Alexander at Hard to Kill. I thought that was inevitable regardless of how they set it up. And yeah, I mean, I honestly, it was very predictable. Like I knew that Bully wasn't going to just like be this upstanding guy and like, they weren't going to do like a babyface versus babyface title match with all this stuff. Like but here's the thing. Bully kept his word. And that is an interesting tidbit here is that he told him straight up, like to his face, he's like, I'm not gonna like backstab you, like when I challenge you for this title, which he didn't. Like he challenged him like a man, like face to face. Like I'm telling you exactly when this title shot's gonna happen, and like shook his hand and everything, right? And it's like, okay. And then he turned on him. But so it's like technically he kept his word. Which is what a good heel does, in my opinion. I think good heels like MJF's another good example. Like he'll tell the truth and be a good person up to a certain point, and then when you're finally like your guard's down and you start to trust him a little bit, then that's when he's gonna really stab you in the back. That said, I plan on being at Hard to Kill because it's here in Atlanta. I mean, fuck, man, on a roster of Trey Miguel's and Speedball Mike Bailey's and Ace Austin's and Chris Bay's, like, I really wish I was getting one of those guys for Josh Alexander for the world title. Even Kazarian, because it was a really good match, even though I thought it was, Kaz was kind of random. Like, I mean, at least I would have been guaranteed a great match at Hard to Kill. I'd imagine that Alexander and Bully Ray will have some sort of like hardcore, element to it, which might make it, which I shouldn't say might, which will make it better than them just having a straight up wrestling match. But I don't know what I'm going to do at Hard to Kill either yet, man. I got to decide, like, because I'm sure I could go but I don't want to like work that much because I want to just like enjoy the show. So like maybe I'll get a couple interviews or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But I'm not excited for the match. You know, and dude, if Bully Ray shouldn't win, and I don't expect him to win, but if he did, that's like, it's not to the same degree as what we were talking about with Tyrus, but it's pretty damn close. Like when you think about it, as far as like just bad faith towards your fan base.
Oh, I don't even like Bully Ray, but I ain't putting him in that category.
But but from the perspective of like, take all the personal stuff aside, like that has to do with Tyrus, like just straight up, like on the show, wrestling show, like Bully Ray, well past his prime. No one really wants to see this title match. Like if they put the world title on him, especially if he beat Alexander after the run Alexander's on, like I feel like it's basically doing the same thing that NWA is doing as far as like turning off their fan base.
It's not good. And like, I agree with that. I just refuse to put anything, and this is not even personal opinion or views and stuff. This is just Bully Ray can at least work a hold and and can generate some like heat. It might be good heat, bad heat, whatever. But like,
Tyrus is immobile. Right? Sure.
Yeah. But I'm not putting him on that level. Nobody is on that level. As far as this angle goes, I actually didn't mind it. Like Bully Ray's an asshole, and that's exactly what he was here. I like that he did not just come in, cash in, beat Alexander. Good. Like you said, he looked him in his eyes, said, "Here's where I'm going to fight you at. All right, now I'm going to beat the shit out of you." Put some heat on it because I got no real interest in Alexander and Bully Ray. I know the match will probably be fine because Josh Alexander is really good. But they had to do something to make you care a little bit about Bully Ray, because so far what they've been doing a lot with Alexander is just like, hey, let's just face like a TNA Impact legend type of guy, and we'll give you a great match. And the story hasn't like always been there with it. And with this, like now they're trying to give you a little bit more meat on the bone with the story of Bully Ray just being a dick and then avenging his fan, or now Josh Alexander like trying to get revenge for it. A little bit what they did with Moose and everything. Yeah. So they're kind of rehashing that, but Bully Ray's good in this role. I think this angle works better if the crowd, like you got the kid just screaming shit of like, she deserves it and everything. Like that's probably not going, like the crowd is just like silent, but it didn't feel like one of those silence of like, oh man, why is this guy doing this? Like, this is a despicable, deplorable act. It just felt like this silence of like, we're getting Bully Ray in this spot. Like, that's what we're doing. Oh, that's probably not what you're going for, but I didn't mind this angle. I thought it was good. And is it making me more excited for this match? Not a lot of things don't make me like more excited for things in wrestling, but I will say I'm more interested than I was. I'm still not super interested in it because at the end of the day it's Bully Ray competing for the title. But I'm more interested. If my level of care was at a 0, it is now maybe at like a 0.9. So
there you go.
Yeah, congratulations. Masha Slamovich, Jordan Grace was a great match.
That'll always be a great match. Those two of the best in the world.
Masha should have won.
I agree.
Last month or whatever it was.
Well, I'm fine with Jordan though, because I think Jordan's exceptionally
she is
exceptionally talented. Like her and Masha, they're I put Masha and Jordan right up there with like Charlotte and like Bianca and stuff. Like I think that they deserve to be in that kind of conversation of like the best in the world, regardless of gender. By the way, I'd put Masha up there against all the top male talents as well. You know what I mean? Like I think very highly of them. I think that here's the thing, and I think we both agree on this, and I think the fan base would agree as well for the Impact fan base. If this was going down on like an Impact Plus or like an Impact like on Thursday, no issue at all. But it's when you got the 4 pay-per-views a year and all eyes are on you and you got to knock it out of the park, which they do. They knock it out of the park. They're 4 pay-per-views a year. To be kicking off 2023 main event pay-per-view for your world title, that's where it's like, that's why would you have Bully in that spot? Like that's, if you want to do this on Impact, you want to do this on Impact Plus, no issue at all. But like, this is where pay-per-view Josh Alexander, because he's on such a fucking run right now, like him versus Speedball, you know what I mean? Like do that. Like that's the kind of buzz you want to get for your company. Like, but here's the thing. I think that Josh Alexander and Bully Ray, they will exceed my expectations. It's the same thing I say every month sorry, every few months, I say that I have the same conversation about Sami Callihan. Every time. It's like in the same conversation.
Oh, he's
about,
next.
About
he's next.
Well, I said the same conversation about Sami Callihan, I have the same conversation about Eddie Edwards every single month. I'm like, not really looking that forward to what they're doing on the pay-per-view, but by the time the pay-per-view is over, I'm like, they killed it again. But you know what I mean? Like another good match. So like I expect that out of Bully and Josh. I think it's going to be better than what we're expecting. But once again, with the roster they have, like being a main event of your pay-per-view, only 4 pay-per-views a year, that's when I think you got to really be pulling the trigger on someone like Speedball or Ace Austin or something like that instead of Bully Ray.
I'm with you. And maybe one day they will pull the trigger on Speedball, Ace Austin.
Hey, I talked to Ace Austin at Battle Slam very briefly when he was there last month, and I said, "Hey, man, I hope you win the Impact World Title one day." And he said, "I think it's going to happen." So I don't. He doesn't. There were no spoilers, no guarantees, but he's like, "I think it's going to happen."
I wish he would have just been like, you know what? Fucking Scott D'Amore ain't never putting that title on me. I'm sick of these. Somebody else is going to come back, and he's going to get pushed over me. That would have been a better answer than I think it's going to happen.
So he's like, I think it's going to happen. I was like, man, I hope it does. Like, you deserved it for like over 2 years now. So like, anyways, but yeah, so that's how I feel about the Bully Ray stuff. I'm not that hyped about it. I think there's a lot better options, but it is what we're at with it. And I'll be there live, and I'm sure it'll be even better for me because I'll be there live seeing it. So like, I'll have the live experience too. And if the crowd's hot for it, especially like, you know, I want it to be good. I want Impact to succeed. I want the NWA to succeed. I want all these companies to succeed. Like, it's just sometimes you make baffling booking decisions where it just feels like you do stuff despite your fan base. And when wrestling's at its best, in my opinion, is when you're mainly catering to the fan base and giving the fans what they want and like getting that feedback and presenting that product that we're looking for. When I think wrestling really kind of fucked itself is when you get too cute with it and you listen to the fan base and you go, oh, I see what they want. We're getting the exact opposite of that. And then it's like, then you get confused as to when the fans reject it, you know? So
I want wrestlers to succeed. One of those companies you mentioned.
I want to give a big motherfucking shout out.
Indie Spotlight, Stephen Jensen, the king of the Indies. You're the king of the Indies watching. The king of the Indies is Dragon Lee.
Yeah.
He won the tournament. It was a joint effort between West Coast Pro and Revolution Pro, and Dragon Lee ended up winning the tournament. He defeated Titus Alexander, our guy, Titus Alexander, in the first round. Very disappointed. Titus Alexander should have won this whole thing.
They're setting up scenes for later on.
They are. And he defeated Jurlistico and SB Kento in the finals in a triple threat match. And I thought the match was very good. There's a couple of rough moments in the triple threat match, but it was right in my wheelhouse. 12 to 18 minutes. Love that kind of stuff. Dragon Lee, interesting choice in that you don't think of him as like this indie breakout kind of guy. He's been in New Japan. He's on AEW. He was part of one of the greatest angles of all time on AEW when Kenny Omega returned, and then Andrade and Rush just decided to shoot their own angle at the end of the match and unmask Dragon Lee. That fucking rolled. But you don't think of him as like an Indies guy, and here he is winning King of the Indies. What'd you think of his performance and him being the king of all independent wrestling?
I mean, I got a lot of respect for, PWR and especially West Coast Pro. I think they put on fantastic products. I honestly think West Coast Pro. Sorry, I keep coughing. Trying to mute myself here.
West Coast Pro's great.
Yes.
They're if you're not following them, I know sometimes maybe we'll have East Coast bias and stuff, but if you're not following what West Coast Pro's doing, they're doing a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah, I definitely have, the Southern and East Coast and specifically Southeast bias for sure when it comes to a lot of my indie takes and the stuff that I cover for sure. But like, I do my best to really pay attention to West Coast Pro, Defy, stuff out there on the West as well. Cause like, I think you could put West Coast Pro's product up there against any other independent company. I think that they're just as good, if not better. Like they're one of, if not the best indies going right now, in my opinion.
For sure.
And there's other good ones too, of course, in like Texas and stuff, and like the middle of the country. They're all over. It's indie wrestling is really thriving. But my point is, like, I really respect what West Coast Pro is doing, And for them to have Dragon Lee win that title, win the tournament, I think means a lot for Dragon Lee because it plants the seeds. Like you beat Titus Alexander, then like it makes me think like next big show probably is going to be, Dragon Lee and Titus, like it's like there's a lot of layers to it. And like Dragon Lee is so phenomenally talented. Like, I mean, so if you have access to that guy, like he's going to win if he's on the Indies, he's going to win most of his matches, I feel like. And he should. So like, I have no problem, of course, with him winning this whole thing. Titus Alexander's the man. We talked about that before. Check out our interview with him. We'll have him on the show again at some point. I am sure of it. He's still getting started. He was like 22 when we interviewed him earlier this year. I mean, just insanely talented. So yeah, shout out Dragon Lee, shout out West Coast Pro PWR for putting on the King of the Indies. And yeah, I'd imagine this will lead to more Dragon Lee doing stuff with West Coast Pro. So I'm down.
They had a lot of good talent in this as well. Like if you haven't checked out a West Coast Pro show or anything like that, go to IWTV, independentwrestling.tv, use code Fight Talk. But yeah, SB Kento, that's someone like I'm not super familiar with. I know I think he's done shots in MLW or is coming to MLW. Dragon Lee seen plenty of times. Jalisco, I've watched a couple times on the Lucha shows. But like Jacob Fatu was part of this. Titus Alexander, again, we've talked about him. But like Nakajima was on this show against Jared Kratos. Marufuji was on this show. Starboard Charlie, who's got a very bright future. He was on the show as well. Kevin Blackwood, like really talented card, top to bottom. And then so yeah, go check out the West Coast Pro show. And like we've talked about, West Coast Pro, they're doing a lot of cool stuff out there. So if you got time, check out all the work that they're doing. They're on IWTV monthly, every other week, something like that. But they're always running shows, and Fatu's been a big staple. Jacob Fatu's been a big staple for them. And Titus, we talked about when Alexander defeated him. So yeah, Titus Alexander, he is their top guy right now. So go check it out. Go support what they're doing. But they brought in a lot of good talent that either aren't regulars or that you've kind of maybe seen elsewhere, or maybe you haven't seen that maybe you can get familiar with and you can see them on other lines of work. But getting Marufuji, having him on the show was pretty sweet to see. Yeah, for sure. And if you want to know more about SB Kento, check out Dragon Gate. And he wrestled Alec Price recently on a GCW show last month. So Jacob Fatu, he put that company on his back for a while there, just like MLW, like Jacob Fatu is just the guy you can rely on to be your world champion. Him putting over Titus, I thought was done really, really, really well when Titus won the title from him. So yeah, a ton of great talent on the show. I saw that Marufuji and Kento are going to be reuniting as a tag team again soon. Yeah, which is pretty wild. What a crazy 2022 and upcoming 2023 we got going on. That's on the same card as the Muda and Nakamura match, Noah, on January 1st. That's a big show. Yeah, it's gonna be a really good show. But yeah, Marufuji and Kento reuniting. It's pretty sweet. All right, your indie. Sorry, that was my indie spotlight. Your indie spotlight. Billie Starkz, the young goat. Billie Starkz winning the Black Label Pro Championship, defeating Calvin Tankman in 3 seconds. She had a title shot. Tankman was out, cashed in on him, won the title, then defended it the next night at Slamilton against Zoe Lucas. So she did get a title defense in there. But the great Billie Starkz, Jensen, what do you have to say? So, to set the stage for people who might have missed the match, basically what wound up happening was on Black Label Pro's Slamilton. They had the 2-part show, 2-part 18-hour event. Yeah, yes. And on part 1, it was in the afternoon. Calvin Tankman retained his title over Levi Everett, and after the match, Levi, excuse me, trying to clear my throat out. Levi, after the match, attacked Tankman with a chair and his butter churner and everything, and left him just laying in the ring. Billie Starkz had won the BLP Rumble, so she had a cash-in that she could do at any time for the title. And basically what wound up happening is what she said. It was literally 3 seconds long. The time of the 3 count was the match. Yeah. And basically Billie came out in street clothes,
cashed in her opportunity and literally just put one foot on top of Calvin Tankman. It was just 1, 2, 3. Billie Starkz is your new Black Label Pro heavyweight champion. I'm going to read out because I think he will probably watch the show. I know he listens to the Weekender. I thought this would be funny to read on the show today. There was a different match that Billie had over the weekend, or that same weekend. Not the I know she retained over Zoe Lucas, but she wrestled Carlos Romo on Action Wrestling right before that, the match before she won at Black Label Pro. She had wrestled. I think she might have had one match in between, but regardless, she had wrestled Carlos Romo really recently. And on the Weekender, I was talking about how I didn't like the finish of the match because basically the finish was they're both out on their feet, they're both knocked out, kind of standing. Carlos and Zoe and Billie. And then Carlos just hits a Canadian Destroyer out of completely nowhere. And then Billie lands on top of Carlos and pins him. So Billie wins the match because of Carlos hitting her with a Canadian Destroyer. And so Mouse, her father, Robert Bellamy, one of my favorite guys in all of wrestling, the best photographer for my money in wrestling. He DM'd me after he listened to the show. He was like, "Hey, I hadn't seen the Carlos match," and he was talking about the finish. He kind of agreed with me. And I was like, "Hey man, yeah, I appreciate that." And I was like, love seeing Billie get that BLP heavyweight title. And he said, "She sucks." So he's always roasting his own daughter. I love it because he'll call Billy Tipton his favorite Billy in wrestling and stuff like that. Yeah. So I just thought it was funny. I heard from Mouse after the title and I was congratulating Billy, and he was like, "She sucks." So shout out to Billie Starkz, still only 17 years old, and one of the most talented wrestlers in the world right now, and only going to keep getting better. I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's a lot of really young, really talented wrestlers out there, and I could name quite a few of them. But I think that Billie Starkz and Nick Wayne are going to be in their mid 20s, and we're talking within the next 5 years. I think they'll be the two biggest stars in the world. Once they have the mainstream exposure, and it won't take very long because they're already so good at their ages. Once they have the mainstream exposure, and kids can really start getting behind them, kids are going to love Billie Starkz. And they're going to be she's around my age. You know what I mean? She's been wrestling since she was 15 or whatever, or 14. It's I think that Billie's going to be the biggest star in wrestling. And it's just a matter of time. So it's cool. It's cool to see her get this win. She has 3 title belts right now too, across multiple promotions. So and BLP is a big company. That's a big title belt to be holding on the indie scene, is that Black Label Pro heavyweight title, and Billie's got it now and she totally deserves it. So I wanted to, that was my spotlight this week. It happened last week, but since we missed the show, I really wanted to make sure to talk about Billie's win. And if you somehow haven't seen Billie Starkz, you can even go back and watch when she was 15 and having matches. She was already good and getting better, but her right now, she's really putting it together. And she's kind of just as anyone does in wrestling as they get a little older, excuse me, everyone kind of fills out, right? She's growing into a woman, right? And so she's she's getting bigger and stronger, and the talent's already there, and she keeps getting better. She's only 18, and it's just one of those things where her at 22, she's gonna be so insanely good. Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? So it's just I just can't say enough good things. And I'm very excited for her future. And I love seeing her with that Black Label Pro heavyweight title. So shout out Mouse, shout out Billie Starkz, Mikey Blanton, Black Label Pro, Slamilton. Great stuff.
She's headed to Japan for Tokyo Joshi Pro as well. So
you're already there, I think. So yeah.
I didn't know exactly when she was flying out. I couldn't remember off the top of my head where the match was, but Graham mentions that Caden interviewed her on Overbooked, and she seems cool. So yes, everyone go to Overbooked. Caden did an interview with Billie Starkz. You mentioned Nick Wayne. She said in the interview that her and Nick Wayne are a bunch of conspiring cheaters, and they cheat on all their homework so they can pass all their quizzes and tests so they can continue to wrestle on the weekend.
I love it.
They're passing answers to each other because one of them has already taken it, and so they're giving each other answers so they can keep wrestling on the weekends. So I do not condone cheating by either one of them. They should actually study and do their homework. Right?
Yes,
that's my.
Well, and Billie's been on my list for a while for fans of the Spotlight here. Like, she's someone we'll definitely talk to. Same with Mouse. I want to get him on the show too, to talk about his experience, not only being her father in like navigating this world of wrestling, but like his experience, like because he's knows the wrestlers so well, and he's right up there on the ring doing photography for hundreds, if not thousands, of matches at this point. So like, I think having both Billie and Mouse on sometime soon would be a lot of fun. And shout out to Caden for getting that interview. That's awesome. But yeah, I have like a list of people I want to interview on the Spotlight. But since me and Jeremy only do one a week, it takes a long time to get through that list. But Billie is absolutely on that list, so you'll hear from her at some point on the show, I'm sure.
Black Label Pro. We mentioned Mikey earlier and how he gave us Batista's dick. How big is it? But he also they did this tweet this week. They're just like, we fired this referee, this Jeremy Tillman, for bad mouthing Taylor Swift. I don't know if you saw this. Jensen.
That's right up your alley.
The moment I saw this tweet, I was like, well, I'm writing this story. Like, I have to. Like, this is just 100% on brand for me. And then he quote tweeted, he's like, we've made it. And I was like, look, you make anything about Taylor Swift or the 2022 Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, like, I'll write about it. I'm very easy to appease for this stuff. Let this be a lesson to any wrestler, to any promoter out there, to anyone just trying to get your company coverage on Fightful. Like, you can send me your press releases, you can send me your news items or your results and stuff. Like, I'll make sure it gets covered in some capacity. You want like premium single article coverage on stuff, do something related to Taylor Swift or the 2022 Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche, and you'll get a single article out of it. I don't care what it is. Just relate it somehow to one of those two things, and I'll write about it, because that shit just pops me. And for some reason, Sean Ross Sapp has given me free reign to write about pretty much anything that I want. Literally wrote about Brian Danielson burying Genghis Khan this morning. So I got free reign to kind of write whatever I want. Do stuff that pops me, and I'll put it on the website. And you get free coverage out of it. Let that be a lesson to everybody out there.
Let that be a lesson. And also, I am an absolute slut for free merchandise. So if you're an independent wrestler out there, or an independent company that wants your merch out there a little bit more, send it to me. I will wear it on my streams, whether it's here or with
Jensen
Doug or
wears
whatever.
this shit all the time on the show.
I wear people's stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes people gift me stuff, honestly. Like, I'll go to an indie show sometimes, and sometimes I buy it. Sometimes they're like, hey, man, thanks for support. You know, and I'm just like, I'm wearing this on Fightful. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm always happy to help kind of support how I can, like, as far as getting people's merch. And like, they're like, when we do the Spotlight, we always make sure like to get to know the person that we're interviewing a little bit better than even just like as a wrestler. We ask like some personal stuff that they're into. And then we're always like, please let people know where to find your stuff, because like, we want people to go out and support. So, and that's another thing too, whether I get something for free or I'm buying it, like, I want to support. Like, so if I walk up to you at a merch table, if you're an indie wrestler, and I'm like, here's $20 for a shirt, and you want to give me the shirt for $20, I'm all about it. I'm all for it. But if you want to give me the shirt for free, even better, and I'll rock the hell out of it. So like, I am more than happy to get your merchandise out there on Fightful platforms, on the RVD Tito for Life channel, on anything I do with Jesse whenever we're free. Like, you know, I'm happy to get your stuff out there. So
At the end of the day, we're whores, Stephen Jensen. That's
giant sluts for this stuff. Gigantic sluts for this.
That's basically what it comes down to. All right, everybody. Speaking of trying to promote wrestlers and trying to get people out there, I did an interview last week with Richard King, who has been on AEW Dark. He's been a big presence at Battle Slam since they've started up. He has a match this week at Battle Slam. And he's I was lost my train of thought. We talked to him about many subjects, largely pro wrestling, but we also got into some of like his favorite movies. We mentioned, Jensen just mentioned that we like to get to know people outside of wrestling. So got into some of like favorite movies, TV show, video games, stuff like that. So hopefully you get to know Rich King a little bit better. He's great. Very, very fun guy to talk to. I love personally the story about his mom taping shows. When you brought that up, that popped me. And then the reason behind that was
when also Ryan or so Turbo Chubb's in the chat right now. That's Ryan who I'm talking about in the interview. Actually, I brought him up.
Okay.
He's who I meet up at the Battle Slam shows with. And he's gotten to know Richard's mom a little bit because he's bought some merch from them, and like she's like super appreciative of anyone who supports him. So like, so it's cool that Ryan's in here too to see this interview because. And by the way, check out Richard King's most recent match because it's available now on Fight Plus. Battle Slam Thriller, you can watch, and then the new Battle Slam show is going to be filming this Sunday. So, but I don't know when it's going to air. But shout out to Baron and Battle Slam, dude. They got on to Fight Plus, which is I thought they should. You know, like you get it if you're an indie company. I think if you can get in on that $5 a month on Fight Plus, get it. You know what I mean? I don't know how the financials look and stuff on the back end versus like doing it yourself. I have no idea, but like from a fan perspective, I really appreciate that I can spend that $5 a month, and now it's like on top of GCW and all these other companies. Like I'm getting Battle Slam also and Combat Sports and stuff. Hell yeah. So,
all right, let's go to our interview with Richard King, everybody. I hope you guys enjoy this one.
Welcome to the Creator Spotlight, the interview portion of the Spotlight. I, as always, am Stephen Jensen with Jeremy Lambert, and today our guest is, in my opinion, one of the best-kept secrets in professional wrestling, a real prospect, and somebody I've been seeing a lot lately at Battle Slam out of the Atlanta, Georgia area. He's the Adonis, Richard King. Richard, thanks for joining us, man. And how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for that intro. That was a really kind thing to say.
Oh no, I mean it, man. Like, and we're gonna get into it during the interview, but that's something that I really wanted to highlight on today's talk because you're somebody that I'm kind of surprised that I didn't know more about you prior to Battle Slam. So I definitely want to kind of hear about kind of this journey you're on and kind of your goals and stuff in wrestling. But I guess first and foremost, Jeremy had let us know before the interview, he's feeling a little under the weather today. So Jeremy, hope you're feeling better by the time this airs. But just want to throw that out there for the people that are listening. Richard, you a lifelong wrestling fan?
Yeah, pretty much. I started watching when I was maybe like 3 or 4 with my dad. He used to show me like a lot of rock stuff. He was a huge Superstar Billy Graham fan back in the day. But then I kind of like fell out of love with it for a while. I think there is that phase that maybe a lot of kids go through where it's like wrestling isn't cool anymore. You know, it's like you move on to something else and then, finally come back to it eventually.
Let's talk about Battle Slam. Let's get into that. How did that all come about? We've had Baron Black on the show. Jensen is he's in the back pocket of Baron Black, I believe. But how did it all come about being part of the Battle Slam shows?
So I did AEW work for the first time probably about a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer than that. And that's where I first met Baron. And honestly, at first, I think I told him this, but I was like, I don't think this dude likes me. I'm like, he clowns on me every single time I see him. He's always got something to say about what I'm wearing. And I'm like, this dude just doesn't like me. And then for one of the first Battle Slam shows, he like hit me up about it and, let me know what the whole deal was and this idea that he had to present me on the show. And I was game, it was a bigger show for me to be on. It was a cool spotlight. I was going to be working some, higher end indie guys and some vets like Caprice Coleman. So it was, something that I couldn't say no to. It was just an amazing opportunity.
Are you out of Orlando, Georgia, or Orlando, Florida?
Yeah.
Okay. So you drive from Orlando to around Atlanta for those Battle Slam shows?
Yeah. I drive up the day before or the day of in the morning.
Okay. Well, something I definitely have noticed, and I wanted to bring up, you have a lot of support around you. I noticed that your mom comes to the shows with you, and she's at your merch table. And
definitely. And
I have a friend Ryan that I've met through the Battle Slam shows, and I know that he got to talk to your mom a little bit at the merch table the other time, and I was kind of avoiding you a little bit because I wanted to talk to you on this show today. So I've been telling Ryan, I was like, I'm going to get to know Richard a little bit better when we talk, and then I'll approach him at the merch table and get some t-shirts and stuff the next time I see you. But What's it like having the support of your mom around? Because I feel like that's got to be just really great knowing that she's like supporting what you're doing.
No, it's fantastic. She's supported me in, in any endeavor. Like, this is my career. This is what I want to do. And when I came to her with that when I was 16, I was like, I want to be a professional wrestler. I don't want to go to college. I don't want to take the path of, a 9 to 5. I'm like, I want to be a professional wrestler. And she's like, well, if that's what you want to do, if that's what's going to make you happy, let's do it. And, she helped me find a school, and, she helped me with that. And she's just been, my rock ever since, helping me on the travels and with the merch and stuff and making sure everything's together. And, she's like the second part of my act that no one gets to see, without her, it wouldn't be the same.
Well, if you're ever at a show that Richard is working on, you can spot his mom, because during his match, she'll be running all over the place, getting the best camera angles possible on that iPhone. And I've been curious. Do you use that as like highlight tape and like kind of like game footage, if you will? Like, because she films like from start to finish everything that you do.
So I love, like, I critique myself, probably more than maybe is healthy. But I want to know exactly what the match looked like and how it went as soon as I get done. And with some of these places, if it's not live, then it could take a couple weeks to get back footage from these places. So, as soon as I get done with the match, I go to the merch table, I pull out the phone, and I'm, going back and forth and looking at, okay, this could have been better. This could have been, changed and that. But just recently I started taking that footage, because I used to just be for me, but I'm now putting it up on my YouTube channel as like a second version of whatever the official version is going to be, just so other people can see it. But it's mainly just for me to look back at and critique myself.
That's a good idea to have. I mean, I don't know if everybody can have their mom come to the indie shows to watch them, but to have someone just film the entire match and be like, hey, let me watch this so I can replay back. Because like you said, if it's not live, sometimes nobody sees any of this footage because it doesn't get out there.
Thing. Yeah, some indie shows, like, you show up and it's like, okay, who's recording? Oh, no one? All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you're basically, at that point, you're relying on just other people to tell you how the match went. And I mean, that can obviously be helpful, especially if there's veterans who are at the shows, but you want to look back and look at the game footage and see what you did and what you can improve on.
Yeah, because sometimes you go up to people and they'll be like, oh, the match is great. And it's like, well, what could be improved? And they're like, the match is great. Like, they don't have anything. It's like, well, I know there's something, so I got to look back myself and, and see what I can improve on.
Has there been any advice? So you've worked AEW, you've been in the ring with guys like Ortiz, with Brian Cage, you've worked Battle Slam, veterans around a lot of these shows. Has there been any advice from, whether it be one of them or somebody else, who've come up to you and be like, hey, this is good, this can be improved? Any advice from veterans?
I think the biggest advice that I got, that's, I can't even point it to one person, but it was really just like, slow down. I used to wrestle a mile a minute. Like, I was just going like from spot to spot to spot. And I think a lot of the guys and girls get caught up in that when they're coming up. They just want to go from spot to spot. And, there's a moment and place for that, but the character work and slowing down and really showing off why you're different from the other guy that's doing a dive out of the ring. Because at this point, anyone can wrestle. Like, we've seen it. Anyone can get in the ring. And if you're somewhat athletic, you can do this, right, with the proper training. But what separates people is, okay, can you make someone care about these in-between moments? Can you make them care about you and your character? So the match that you mentioned with Ortiz that I had at Dark, that unfortunately was never aired, I actually, Ortiz and I got critiqued by Christopher Daniels. And it was kind of just like, hey, you guys went out there, you had a great technical match. Physically, it looked great. But character-wise, you need to show that more, and just more character. And like from that point on, I was like, character. Like, I know I can be physical. I know I can do the physicality stuff and in the moves. So I'll kind of let, the back of my mind just do that. But the forefront of my mind has to be on character,
Okay, and that's a perfect segue, because I wanted to ask you about your character, because you seem very the opposite as a human being than what I see as a professional wrestler. And I'm curious about that. Like your entrance gear, like I think it's akin to like Okada, like the robe, and you look kind of like the Rainmaker. I think it looks pretty badass. And I know you've been kind of tweaking aspects and like trying to kind of mark down probably what works best for you. Where did the ideas for your character come from? And do you prefer being, because just right off the bat, like you see a guy like you're in incredible shape. I was going to ask about that as well. You absolutely look the part of a professional wrestler. You pass the looks test like immediately. You look like somebody. You look like a star when I see you. And then you put it all together in the ring. Absolutely. But then like, so it's one of those things like, do you kind of prefer being in that space of like being a heel and having people dislike you because of those things? Or do you think it can be motivating to see a guy like you and be like, oh, I can achieve being successful like this guy? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've always found it easier to be a heel for whatever reason. It's kind of like, in a movie or a show, you're playing a part, and you can kind of let loose this part of you that isn't your day to day. Like whenever I was a face, I was like, I don't know what to say. Like, is you just a generic, come on, like, I don't like, it's just not me. So when I'm a heel, it feels just natural. I can take all the things that I've seen from like movies and TV shows and what I base my character on and just put it out there. And I feel like that's when I'm at my best.
Well, what are some of those influences? Like if you could like lock some of those down from like movies, TV shows, other wrestlers you take inspiration from?
So I think a friend of mine put it best. Like I was looking at a bunch of different stuff, but he put it best in that I'm Injustice Superman. Like this character that has this idealized version of himself. He thinks he's perfect. He is the Adonis. He has this God complex, right? He's up here, everyone else is down here. And the way that I don't know if I've perfectly encapsulated this in my work, but it's a character that doesn't think he's the villain.
Right.
It's like, I'm perfect. What do you mean I'm doing bad thing? Why are you booing me? I'm perfect. I'm like, you should be on your feet, like I'm here type thing. And Injustice Superman is very much like that. It's like, I'm in the right. Well, you're crazy if you think that I'm in the wrong type thing.
It sounds very Homelander. If you've watched,
that too,
Yeah. So
like I always like a villain that isn't like a mustache twirling. Like I like a villain that's like, no, I'm right, you're wrong. Like even like a Thanos, where it's like what I'm doing is mercy type thing.
Yeah. I want to circle back to AEW. How did that come about? But I assume it was in Orlando. But how did it come about? Who contacted you, or did you reach out to anybody?
Well, I like when they first started doing Dark stuff, I reached out to AEW, and I just never got anything back. And then it wasn't until maybe like a year or so later, Sean Dean, the captain, reached out to me and my tag partner at the time, and brought us up to Jacksonville for, I think it was like 2 days. It was like 2 days, maybe 1 or 2 days off, and then we were back for another 2 days. It was right before they went back on the road. So they were filming a bunch of Dark. And funny enough, we were there for 4 days and didn't do anything. Like, they just had us there. And it wasn't until like a few months later they brought us to the Orlando tapings and had a match against Wardlow and Spears.
Now, were you given any reason as to why the Ortiz match did not end up airing?
I was. So the Dynamite episode that aired after those tapings, Ortiz shaved his head.
Oh,
that makes sense. Wow.
He shaved his head. And I was like, okay, because I was told it before we went out there. I was like, they're like, hey, this match probably won't air because Ortiz is going to shave his head in a few days. So I was like, okay, cool.
So you knew going into that match that it's like, oh, we're going to do this, and it's possible that no one's actually going to see this except the people there, which you mentioned you got feedback from Christopher Daniels, which is great. But still, going into the match, you knew like, hey, we might do this, and it might not be seen by the public.
Yeah, exactly. I was hoping to at least get like, hey, here's like footage, don't share it type thing, but I didn't get anything. I don't even know if the cameras are on.
We'll
gotta see if we can. Yeah, I'm gonna say we might be able. We're gonna see if we can help you with that somehow. I would love to be able to get you that footage, especially for a guy who goes so out of his way to like make sure he's getting good footage. Like,
I would love to see that match because I heard it was good, like on a technical scale. So
when Sean Dean, we see a lot of him at Battle Slam doing a lot in the Atlanta area as well. Would you like to speak a little bit more about him and some of the other performers that we've been seeing at Battle Slam? Because I think the product that y'all are putting on is like, it's just kind of slept on in just the grand scheme of pro wrestling. I feel like the shows are really solid. They continue to get better and better. And just some thoughts on Sean Dean and maybe some others you've been working with through Battle Slam.
Yeah, it's a crazy good talent pool that they have at Battle Slam. Like Kevin Knight, I think is a standout in the New Japan Dojo. Casey Navarro's fantastic. I've worked Chad Skywalker now. I think that was our third encounter with the intergender tag match with Ashley. But like, and then obviously Caprice Coleman getting in there with him, the ring vet that he is, was an awesome experience. He's just an amazing dude. But yeah, like he keeps bringing in people that I'm like surprised. I'm like, you got this dude? Like you got this dude? I mean, Baron's got connections. He knows everyone. Like Bay was there. Chris Bay was there last show. It's something that I'm hoping continues to grow,
Speaking of Battle Slam, they combine wrestling and hip hop and music. We've seen Lil Scrappy throw down there. But like, what kind of music do you listen to? What's your go-to, whether it's a workout or driving or what kind of music do you listen to?
So I listen to hip hop and rap in the gym sometimes. Sometimes I'll put on like orchestral music, like some really soft stuff if I'm doing maybe like arms or something that isn't as demanding. But honestly, I have a whole vinyl collection upstairs of Frank Sinatra, Bobby Vinton, Ricky Nelson, the Ink Spots, the Platters. Like that's like really my bread and butter right there.
Okay, I got to know more about vinyl because you're young, and I feel like the young generation they're not typically into that. So like, what got you started on the vinyl?
Fallout. I have a Fallout 3 tattoo.
Okay.
It was Fallout 3 was my first Fallout game, and like the soundtrack to that it hooked me. At the young age of 8, I was like, this is my stuff.
Wow, I would not expect someone your age to be like, yeah, got a nice vinyl collection going on. Yeah. That's awesome. Especially Sinatra.
Flea markets are the place to go for it. There's this place up in it's in between Sebastian and Vero Beach. The name of the town is slipping my mind. But this older guy has this giant booth in the flea market just filled with any kind of vinyl that you could possibly want. And that's where I go for my stuff.
Nice. That's very interesting to hear that you're into vinyl. That's awesome. What kind of hip hop artists do you listen to?
I mean, you got the classics: Tupac, Biggie, Coolio. Who else do I have? Kool and the Gang. Listen to Kool and the Gang sometimes. This isn't hip hop, but I just started. What's the Mariah Carey song? Not the Christmas one.
Fantasy.
Yes.
Oh, Will Washington. Will Washington. Sorry.
I've been playing that on loop during my workouts. I don't know. Someone about that song will just push you through a set of bench. Like, I don't know. My girlfriend doesn't get it. My other friends don't get it. They try it, and I'm like, bro, there's just something about it. I don't know.
That is a great song. Will Washington, who hosts Grapsody here on the channel, huge Mariah Carey fan. So,
but that's the thing. I'm not even a big Mariah Carey fan. It's just that one song where I'm like, if you play her Christmas song, I'm like, get that out of here. But the fantasy,
that is a really good song. That's a great song. I love Taylor Swift, so
I'll mess with Taylor Swift too. I was listening to Katy Perry when I was sitting chess today.
There you go.
Like,
they make good like kind of upbeat music.
Exactly.
If you're doing like I do a lot of running, and so some of those songs like very nice to run to, depending if you're trying to go like slow or if you need to pick it up a little bit.
Exactly, like whatever gets you through the workout,
Yeah. I'm with you.
Well, speaking of those workouts, what kind of advice would you have for somebody like if someone were to be like, hey, I want to look like you? Like, I know that's a very, you can't, it's not just, it's a very layered answer, I'm sure, but like, what kind of advice would you give somebody to get in like good shape like you are in?
I get this question a lot, like people DM me it a lot, and I don't know, I kind of find it funny sometimes because I don't see myself as like a big or an in shape guy. I got bad, like honestly, I have bad body dysmorphia. I look at myself and I'm like, bro, you could improve here, and here. But by what people are telling me, I'm in pretty good shape. So honestly, it's really consistency, like staying consistent in the gym, staying consistent with your food. I use MyFitnessPal, which is a food tracker. You can track all your calories, and that's where a lot of people mess up. A lot of people are like, I can't lose weight. I'm eating so little. And I'm like, well, did you track your calories? Because you're probably actually eating like 4,000 calories. You might think you're only eating, 2,000 because you eat twice a day, but those 2 meals are huge, or they're really calorie dense. So tracking your calories and making sure you're on point from day to day. And then just staying consistent in the gym, like not everyone needs to go in there and train like a bodybuilder or a power lifter. Just going in there, hitting your sets, trying to push yourself from day to day. And you're going to see improvement. It's impossible to go in there and push yourself and then also stay consistent with a diet and not see improvement. You're going to see improvement.
Do you have like a favorite exercise or anything that you would recommend to somebody to try out?
I love bent over barbell rows. That's what's growing my back the most, that and weighted pull-ups. I used to love deadlifting a lot, but just like from wrestling and then gym, and I used to do judo a lot, and then wrestling in high school. Just it's too much on the back to where like I've slowed down on that a lot. I've been loving incline bench on the Smith press. Like you can really take your time on it. You can slow down on that eccentric and then fire off, or you can do pause sets on it, and you don't have to worry about failure because you can just re-rack it whenever you need to. Seated shoulder press, any sort of seated shoulder press. I love working shoulders. Honestly, I could talk about the gym all day. I love bodybuilding, especially the golden age with Arnold and Frank Zane and Columbo, and that's I can sit there and watch Pumping Iron over and over again.
See, we are not the guys to talk about bodybuilding. I remember the last time I saw the inside of the gym. A lot of cardio. I'm all cardio.
I've seen some of those documentaries though. It's fascinating. Like Kai Green was like a really, really interesting guy.
Yeah.
Like really deep, like intellectually, but like, yeah, like I think that stuff's fascinating. And also I did want to ask, I didn't want to forget, you had mentioned, the Fallout tattoo, of course. Other favorite video games? I got to hear some of your favorites.
Chrono Trigger might be like top 3. Borderlands 2. I mean the whole series, but really Borderlands 2. Fallout New Vegas is my favorite Fallout. Fallout 3 is my first, but New Vegas it's top tier. I mean, I'm a Call of Duty fan too. I haven't picked up the newest one yet, Modern Warfare 2. I haven't, but I'm waiting on it. Pokemon. I'm a huge Pokemon fan. Played every single one.
Who's your favorite Pokemon?
Cyndaquil.
Okay. I can't remember what Baron's answer was. We asked Baron who his favorite was. I can't remember
some
what
trash answer like
There you go. We'll clip that. There you go.
Hey, who's your starter Pokemon? Who's your starter?
My starter?
Yeah.
I mean, if Cyndaquil is an option, it's Cyndaquil. But Squirtle too. I'm a big Blastoise fan.
See, when I think starter, I think the original stuff. I guess nowadays they have a bunch of different.
Well,
I'm old.
If the Gen 1, it's Squirtle. I mean, people people love Charmander. Honestly, like Charmeleon's trash. And then Bulbasaur, it's like, God, what are you doing with a grass starter? Who picks a grass starter?
Never understood that.
True.
See, Charmeleon fine, but like Charizard was still a beast. Like you can't.
Well,
you
yeah,
can't knock
Charizard's still a beast, but you got to deal with Charmeleon, you know, and like that's like your 10 levels. Get out of here.
That's fair. That's fair.
But
Have you? I think the new Pokemon game is coming out. Like, there's another one.
Yes, it's coming out on the 18th. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. For
Only
it.
3 days.
Yeah.
One of the kids is like very excited to get this thing. We're like, wait till Christmas. He's like, no, I need this thing now.
Yeah, that I have a Switch just for Pokemon games. Like that's why I have a Switch. I only own Mario Kart and Breath of the Wild. Everything else is Pokemon. And the same with my DS. When I bought a DS, I bought it for Pokemon. You know.
That's legitimately why I bought my DS is to play Pokemon, and because I miss the original, just like the Game Boy, playing it on that all the time as a kid.
What sucks is they don't even like the Switch was a perfect system for them to re-release all of them.
Yeah,
right.
And they just don't.
Yeah,
they're like, you want to play the old one? I don't know. Go find a Game Boy. You know.
That's so true. I've got a Switch as well, and I'm interested. I used to love Pokemon when I was younger, and like I still like dip in every now and then, especially when it comes to like the cards and collectibles and stuff like that. But I might have to grab this new game because I'm kind of like you. I have Mario Kart for my Switch. I've had it for years. I got Mario Kart, and I have Fortnite on every platform. And it's like that's pretty much like what I use my Switch for. Is like if I want to play Fortnite like on the go, I can take my Switch with me instead of using my Xbox. But I need to get more stuff for my Switch, and
there are a lot of good games. There are a lot of good games for the Switch. I just haven't dived into it, you know.
Yeah,
like I know people praise Mario Odyssey. I haven't tried it. I'm not.
That one's good.
A big Mario fan, but
yeah,
I heard that one was good.
This is very much a Mario family, and they are always playing the Mario. They love the Mario Odyssey, Mario U. They're big fans of. So I get to see them. I mean, the kids are excited, so like I'm excited because of that. But I don't get out to go see a lot of movies, so anything that's going to pique their interest, I'll be excited for.
Okay. But what about that Chris Pratt as Mario?
It's not my cup of tea, but you know what can you do? Yeah, I don't like mind Chris Pratt. I guess he has other things going on that aren't great, but I don't mind Chris Pratt. He'll always be Andy from Parks and Rec to me. That's how I just always see him.
See, I never watched Parks and Rec, so to me, he's just Star-Lord.
Same for me. Star-Lord,
okay.
Yeah.
See, I can't unsee the Parks and Rec stuff for the Marvel stuff. Just can't do it.
I mean, the transformation, though, from him and Parks and Rec to crazy.
Yeah, it is very, very much insane. Okay, well, now, like, what are some of your favorite movies?
You say favorite movies?
Yeah, movies.
I always tell people my favorite movie of all time is Forrest Gump. I don't know if that's true though. it's up there. But The Dark Knight is a fantastic movie. I love that. I love Batman. A Cure for Wellness is a really good, like, low budget psychological horror movie that I really like. That and Shutter Island is a movie that I think everyone should see.
That's good. Yeah.
Shutter Island is so good. Like, and if you haven't seen it, I don't want to say anything about it because I feel like saying anything about it is a spoiler. But it's a movie that you can watch twice and have very different perspectives on it both times.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I saw Shutter Island when it first came out, and it was definitely kind of a little bit of a mind trip. That one and Inception are always like, can you make heads or tails of either one? Shutter Island's a good shot though.
Speaking of horror, the first Halloween is one of my all-time favorites too.
Okay, so are you up on the Halloween franchise? Have you seen Halloween Ends or I guess
Unfortunately, yeah.
See, I've heard that it's not great. I've heard that it's not great. If people were not happy with it.
It's better than Kills. It's better than the last one. Okay. I can say that, but it's almost, I don't know, maybe it was just the mood that I was in when I was watching it, but it's almost a comedy. Like there's a tag team in it, like almost a legitimate tag team. And it's kind of funny.
See, I think that should be a genre though. We need like kind of Halloween comedies. They take Christmas and now they got like Christmas horror with Santa and going around murdering people. There's that new one that's coming out. There's the infamous Goldberg one, Santa's Sleigh, where Goldberg is Santa killing a bunch of people. A Halloween comedy, I feel like, is an untapped market.
I think it's even better that it was unintentional. Like they try to make something serious and it was just funny. I mean, we kind of had that with like the Scary Movie, you know, but it's a genre that doesn't really exist anymore, you know.
That's just a parody genre to me. That's not just so much of like Halloween comedy, but I can see how Scary Movie like fits that bill.
Is the new Terrifier movie I heard is like has comedy in it a little bit.
The new one with I think Chris Jericho has like a scene or two in that one. So I've seen promotion for it. I'm not a horror person. I can't really do it. So not my cup of tea. How about go ahead.
Sorry, good.
I was gonna ask about now television shows since we've kind of run through.
For sure.
Well, most recently I finished House of Dragons, which I thought was great. All up to date on the Marvel TV shows. Daredevil season 1 is still best Marvel show there is out there. Dragon Ball. I mean, I grew up watching Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, watching the reruns on Cartoon Network, you know.
That is fascinating to me. That I mean, Dragon Ball has been around since we were younger, Jensen, and now it's still this thing again. The kids will watch that, and I'm just like, this is still a thing. Same with Pokemon, just still love it.
Stands the test of time.
What's funny is I didn't grow up watching the Pokemon show though. Like
maybe I'm wrong, but like I don't feel like the show was that popular even when we were kids. Like it was always the games to me.
Yeah, it was the game and the cards that we talked about, you know.
Yeah, that really was because it was so innovative too. Because like back then, when people that was also during the era where like it was going from like the green Game Boy screens to like the Game Boy Colors and stuff. So like portable gaming was becoming a little better too. And I remember being mind blown when I don't know if you remember this, Jeremy, but you used to be able to take a cord that would link your Game Boy to someone else's Game Boy, and you could trade Pokemon that way. And like in elementary school for us, that was like the coolest thing you could fathom, right? Was trading Pokemon from game to game. And I was very big into the cards, and I actually still have some of them here in my office.
I was that kid that didn't have any friends that played Pokemon, so I always had a Kadabra. I couldn't evolve it to an Alakazam. Like I legit, when I was in middle school, I had 2 DSs, so I could trade with myself. That's sad. I would trade with myself so I get a Gengar and stuff. Like that's how it was.
Oh, man. This is very disappointing to hear. Mm-hmm. Why wasn't anybody your friend, Richard? What happened?
Well, it's not that I didn't have any friends, but like I don't know. I guess by the time like when I was in middle school, Pokemon was starting to like phase out. You know, people weren't on the playground trading with Pokemon anymore. You know,
right?
That totally makes sense actually. Because how old are you, Richard?
22.
22. Yeah, that totally makes sense. What were like the biggest things like fad wise for you coming up?
I mean, probably everyone talking about like Call of Duty and Halo, honestly.
Yeah, and like YouTube getting big.
Yeah, like YouTube. I remember maybe it was just a school I went to, but like a lot of sneakerheads. You know, just like that's what kids were comparing was their sneakers, and I'm like, I got Converse. Like, I don't really care about your Jordans.
Those things hold up though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Timeless.
I even missed the boat on Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I was a huge Yu-Gi-Oh! Kid, and I was like, I'd bring my deck to school, and there'd be like 1 or 2 other kids in the whole school that played Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm like, man, I missed the mark, I guess.
Oh, damn.
I'm gonna circle back to wrestling here. What are some of your goals? I mean, you're 22. You have hopefully a long career ahead of you. But what are some of your short term and long term goals in wrestling?
I mean, short term, I just like I want to get out there more. You know, I've been traveling up to New York and Rhode Island. You mentioned the match with Cage and Flip. that was up north in XWA, trying to do more stuff like that. And then just trying to get better, whether it's physique wise or in the gym, just trying to improve wherever I can. And then long term is, I mean, I think it's probably the same for most people. They want to be on the big stage, you know, whether that's WWE or AEW or New Japan, Impact, just to be at the top of your industry. I think if you're not striving for that, then you probably don't care too much about making it a career. I mean, I don't know, maybe other people have different, you know, end goals in mind, but if you want to do this as a career, that has to be one of the end goals, is to be at one of the big places.
To kind of go along with that, who are some of the people that you, I guess, your dream matches, if you will, people that you haven't gotten to wrestle yet that you really, really want to?
Man, I mean, my number one is Edge, which sucks that probably won't happen, considering like he probably won't be working for that much longer, and I think he's, you know, has a very limited pool list of who he's going to work. But that's who I grew up watching, even when I got back into wrestling. You know, like Edge is my number one guy. Styles, Balor, over in AEW, Kenny Omega. He's someone that when I got back into wrestling, like I was watching all his stuff and kind of getting caught up on everything. You mentioned earlier that I have that similar look to Okada. Okada would be he doesn't have a bad match.
Right.
You know, so I could go in there with full confidence. I'm like, whatever happens, we're going to come out on the other side and it's going to be good because it's Okada, you know. Well, what sucks though is that like a lot of those guys, they're on the older side, you know. So it's like, okay, if I want those matches, I got to get to those places quick, you know.
Sure. Well, and also it's worth mentioning that it's hard for me to remember because I go to these Battle Slam shows live, and then like which ones air when and what I'm seeing versus what airs on, you know, Fight and everything. But after a recent Battle Slam show, I know you said Baron's always clowning on you and stuff, but after the show where he won the championship, he on the microphone was giving props to a lot of people, but you were one of the people you really kind of honed in on, it felt like, and saying like Richard King's a guy that like people aren't talking about but should be, and like he's really showing out here. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but what did it feel like getting kind of that nod of approval from Baron that night?
I mean, Baron can be a man of very few words, and so when he said that, I was kind of like, I was surprised that he said anything, and after the show I went up to him and I was like, hey man, I appreciate you, you know, really saying those things. And of course it's Baron, so he's like, man, stop with that soft shit. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to, you know, give you your flowers, dude. But that's just him. That's just his personality. But yeah, it meant a good deal to me that he said those things.
Now, Battle Slam has their next event next weekend, right? Like, have you been announced for a match for that? Do you know who you're working for that event?
I have no clue. I have no clue. All I know is that the start time is 11 p.m., which is crazy late. But in terms of what I'm doing, I do not know. It's on the 27th.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a wild day for a lot of that crew, because Championship District Wrestling, which is also run by Nightmare Factory students, is running that same afternoon out of the district in Atlanta, and then they're going to be taking that same ring and then moving it to the venue for Battle Slam later that night and setting up and doing that show that night. So I'll be at Championship District Wrestling doing a little commentary, and I'd like to make it a Battle Slam, but I got to work a shoot job the next day in the morning. I just don't know if I can do a show that starts at 11 p.m.
You're sick. You're sick that day.
I know, right?
You know. It's right after the holidays too.
That's the problem. Is like some at work might see this, but like I was kind of gonna try to do that, but everyone's already like well in advance have asked for that day off already, and I'm like, oh no. So I'm hoping I can make it out.
Family emergency.
See, I'm trying to. I know you're doing commentary for district. Like I'm trying to get it set up to where you get punched, and then you're not going to be able to make the show because you'll have or to make the shoot job the next day because you'll have like a concussion. I don't need anybody to hit you that hard, but
There
you
you
will
go.
be injured,
You
so
take
you
a
can't go
super
to your
kick.
shoot job. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's
I
like,
like
he's
that.
too injured to actually to work the shoot job, but you can still make the battle slam later.
If you need that, I got you. I got you.
Okay.
See?
Thank you,
There we
Richard.
go.
I appreciate that. If I need somebody to lay one in on me, I'll appreciate that.
Go. Richard, we'll get you out of here on this. So we ask everybody, what is the coolest thing in your room?
In my room?
In your room, in the house that you're in, just kind of the coolest thing that you own. You have to get it.
We want to see it. You might have to stand up.
Get it?
Yeah, you gotta go get it.
Oh, it's upstairs.
It's okay.
It's upstairs.
Yeah, it's okay.
Give me a second.
We're used to it. Okay. Man.
Every single time. They gotta go.
I love that.
Get this
Good guy, man. Richard's very, very nice guy.
I hope it's a vinyl record. I feel like that's what he's gonna get. Once he said that he was into like vinyl, I feel like he's gonna come back with some type of vinyl record.
I feel like that too, but like he's talking a lot about like collectibles and stuff. Like, you know, maybe he goes like some sort of Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or Dragon Ball type scenario. We'll see. It's funny because he'll watch this back and he'll hear our conversation about like us speculating what's he bringing back. What's the coolest thing in his room?
All right, here we go.
Here it is.
Reveal.
Okay, I got the thing.
All right.
So this is a Star Wars clock.
Oh.
And you might think, well, this is just a normal clock. It's a Shape of the Millennium Falcon. But it's actually an old record.
Oh.
That was laser cut. And it's in Russian for some reason.
Very
so
cool.
I got this as a gift probably 2 years ago. And I'm like, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen someone laser cut a record.
Yeah.
It doesn't even like the battery's dead, so it's not even telling the right time. But this was the first thing that came to mind when you asked that. So there you go.
So we were debating off air as you were getting that. I thought you were going to go something vinyl. Jensen thought you were going to go some type of collectible, and it turns out you went both. Like you combined it. I have vinyl collectible there.
Yep.
Very nice. Very nice. Richard, let everyone know what you got coming up, where they can find you at, anything you want to get out there to plug.
So like you said, I got the Battle Slam show coming up on the 27th. In December, we have FIP coming up, Full Impact Pro, down here in Florida. We also have Pro Wrestling Action, which is in December as well. All of these posters are on my page. And then you can also find me at True Richard King, most places, or Richard King Official. Subscribe to my new YouTube channel. I just started uploading pretty consistently. I've been uploading either wrestling videos or workout videos. You can find me on YouTube at Richard King. And yeah, so that's what's going on.
You want to, Jeremy? We can put the YouTube link in the description for him.
Yeah, for sure,
cool.
Easily.
Yeah, send you guys everything.
Yeah, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck at Battle Slam when you don't know who you're facing. Maybe Baron will stop being a coward and he'll give you a shot at the title.
Baron, he's got the #1 contender now. You know.
He said he was. He said he was.
Taylor.
Yeah, he said he wasn't gonna face shoot.
Not yet. Yeah, he's gonna make Shu wait. It sounds like so. I don't know who's gonna be on this show. Yeah, it might be you.
Maybe.
Pay him back for all the times he's been joking around and been mean to you. Just get some revenge on that.
Exactly. I wore these leather pants once to AEW. I legit wasn't even out of the car fully yet, and he was already clowning on me. I'm like, yo. So
Baron's ruthless.
I'll show up in those.
He is. For what it's worth, like I thought for the longest time Baron didn't like me either. And it turns out that it just I guess he did. Like we get along great. You know, it's just I got that vibe also at the beginning too, and I feel so for whatever it's worth.
The thing. I think if he clowns you, that means he likes you.
That's sometimes like how it goes with certain relationships. Like I kind of feel the same way. The people I joke around with and kind of make fun of the most are the people that I love the most. So
yeah, exactly. If you're comfortable with someone, you'll be like that a bit more.
Right, exactly. Well, Richard, again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Everyone give him a follow at True Richard King. Check out the YouTube channel. It's all down there in the description and the link below. Richard, thank you again for joining us. Guys, we'll be right back here on the Spotlight. We are back here on the Spotlight. Thank you again to Richard King for joining us last week. Much appreciation. Everyone going to check out Battle Slam if you're in the area. If you're not in the area, check it out when it premieres on Fight Plus, Fight TV. Yeah, Stephen Jensen, long show today. It was great to spend the extra time with you because it's Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for you, buddy. Thankful that we are able to do this show pretty much every week, except when one of us has COVID. But do this show every week, talk about wrestling, hang out with everybody in the chat. So I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for everybody in the chat, even though I'm sometimes mean to you guys. I always appreciate the support and that you guys are watching, listening, following along, sending me nice messages about things. So thank you guys. And thank you guys for hanging out with us on Thanksgiving here if you were in the United States. If you're in elsewhere and you don't celebrate Thanksgiving on this day, then this is just a regular day for you, and you should be here every week.
Yes, I appreciate you too, Jeremy. Appreciate everyone watches this show. See Ryan in there. I sent you the event details. By the way, everyone, Championship District Wrestling this Sunday. If you're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, I believe the show starts at 3:30 Eastern and it'll run till like 7. So it makes sense. It's probably about a 3.5 hour show. I know they said they were trying to do some shorter shows too when we talked to Jameson and Sheik last. You should be hearing from Jameson and Sheik, by the way, next week on the show. We're planning to interview them this Tuesday, and then we'll air it for y'all next Thursday, and we'll let you know where and when to watch the CDW show, Championship District Wrestling. And I'll be doing some commentary, like I've been mentioning, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, check out Battle Slam. Go support Richard. Go support Baron. All the people doing big things over there for Battle Slam. There's still an outside chance I might make the show that night, but with it starting as late as it does, it's unlikely. But I'll be supporting from home as far as whatever I can do to help, promote the show. And we should get Baron on here soon again too. We'll try to get Baron on the spotlight soon to talk some Battle Slam and catch up with him because it's been a minute since y'all have seen him here on this show.
He's gonna make fun of you. He's just gonna clown you the entire time.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I like the feedback we're getting. People, so like Ryan, has met Richard and interacted with him and his mom a few times at those shows, and it's good. Like I like getting that kind of feedback. He says I thought I couldn't like Richard King anymore. Like as far as like he likes him even more now after that interview, which is I like hearing that. So yeah, support indie wrestling this weekend. Skull Vikings once again. Shout out to my boys over at Purple Daily, Declan and Judd and Mackie. Those guys rule. I'll be watching their post show right after. Y'all might even catch me later tonight if they do their live show right after on their event line. I might jump on live and talk Vikings tonight. Maybe we'll see how the game goes. But yeah, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate Fightful. We're very fortunate, I feel like, to be in positions that we're in, and I try not to forget that. Like I was somebody that for years consumed YouTube videos and podcasts, and even back in the day traded VHS tapes with people and stuff like that. And I always thought it'd be really cool if people could ever like care enough about my opinion on wrestling to want to hear me talk about it or watch me, talk about it or whatever. And the fact that we're in a position to have a platform to do it, that, I think it's a very fortunate thing that is not lost on me. I think it's a really cool thing. And I think it's cool that I'm getting to meet more people at these shows and stuff that are also wrestling fans. So I appreciate I appreciate all of it. So thank you all for the support. And thank you, Jeremy, for, when you decided to do this show, that you chose me to do it, man. This show, this is the one thing a week that like I make sure to carve out time for multiple times a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's out of my full-time job now, is like to make sure I want to keep this going at the very least. So I appreciate you, man. And I appreciate everyone watching. I hope everyone has a very happy Thanksgiving.
I appreciate you always being accommodating with the time and just, spending your time with me, because I don't feel very important. I don't know why people want to spend time with me.
I tortured myself on an airplane twice just to be at your wedding, man.
I know. See, I don't know why people do that to themselves. I'm not worth all that. But yeah, thank you everybody who watches, listens, supports, sends nice messages, anything like that. It's really not possible without you guys. And it's much appreciated. And, not only do we do this show, but you can head over to Fightful Overbooked and everybody who supports everything we're doing over there. And tomorrow, Stephen Jensen will do a show with SP3, that coward, that hooligan that's just menace. SP3 talking about Jason David Frank and Power Rangers. So show them some love over there. We have a bunch of new stuff on Fightful Overbooked. Tag Talk this week with Haley and Kylie. Kylie was at Full Gear, so she had live experience. They had the perspective on the Elite. I look forward to their thoughts next week after everything that happened last night. So yeah, Haley and Kylie are great. Everyone go support everything they're doing over at Tag Talk. FMC, SP3 and I talk about everything but wrestling. We ranked Fast and Furious movies this past week. That was a great show. Cher Delaware pops in on that. The series, which I just wrapped up on CM Punk, I think I'm going to do something regarding that, like kind of the wrap up thing, because people have asked questions about like sort of what I look for and stuff. So I think I'm gonna do some type of stream with that at some point, and a bunch of stuff coming up and things like that. I think there's new Strong Style, Newsworthy, Tim and Joel, the New Japan show, Bread Club with Matt and Kieran. Check that out if you're not into New Japan, you want to get into New Japan, or if you love New Japan, that's the show to check out for everybody who wants to support again what we do, what other content creators do. So yeah, head over to fightfuloverbook.com. Thank you guys again. Everybody have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Hope everyone has all the turkey. If you have ham on Thanksgiving, enjoy that. Stuffing, corn, green beans, collard greens. What else? What do you have? What's your favorite Thanksgiving? Mashed potatoes. What's your favorite Thanksgiving meal?
My favorite thing is probably green bean casserole. I love green bean casserole. And I only eat it like once a year for Thanksgiving, but I should probably eat it more often. But I'm not like vegan vegetarian, but like I do go on sprees where I don't eat a lot of meat for like long periods of time, and I'm kind of in that mode right now in a lot of ways. So like for me, Thanksgiving, I already did my Thanksgiving actually because my dad and my stepmom are in Phoenix right now with my grandma to do Thanksgiving with her. So we already did a family one. So, but my thing is like I eat hardly any turkey, and I pretty much just loaded up because I love mashed potatoes. I love stuffing. I love green bean casserole. I love cranberries. You know what I mean? Like, so I can do just all the sides and be totally happy. So, but I like, are you white meat or dark meat for you?
White.
I'm white meat as well. See, that's kind of rare. I feel like most people choose dark meat, but I'm white meat as well when it comes to my turkeys.
Everyone, enjoy your Thanksgiving if you're celebrating Thanksgiving. And if it's just another day for you, then enjoy your Thursday, everybody. Bye, everyone. We'll be back next week talking more professional wrestling. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.